What up, people? You are live and direct on Petty Sportz, the podcast. Brought to you by King's Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Mr. Famous Fees. They call me Fax. Here with my main man, Adam. Yo, holla at him.
Man, we're back again on a Wednesday. 8 p.m. loaded show. Hawks are on right now. Need to close it out in 5 games. Don't let it come back to Atlanta. But we got a lot on the slate tonight. Happy to be here, though. Mike and Gary, hope y'all having a great night. Everybody tuning in, make sure to call into the show. Don't forget, hit us up in the comments in the chat. Whatever you got to do to get us rolling about your take. Fees, tell us what's on the lineup tonight, man.
Oh, man, we got a hot docket for you, man. We got this NBA playoffs action because y'all already know the NBA playoffs is all the way live, but it's very diverse today. We're going to talk a little tennis. We're going to talk about some boxing. We're going to take it back to football and back to basketball again. A couple of nice little segments for you. The off the top is about to be real. But before I even give you the off the top, just got to give a shout out to the Atlanta, Georgia relays. That thing was dope. Any of y'all following me, y'all saw I was there covering it, cut up a little video. Y'all go to the Petty Sportz YouTube page, put out a bunch of videos of the races, one to recap the entire event. Man, and they got one nice little funny video over there of Sarah Oh No Marshall. She's like, man, she was hawking folks down the whole time. Every race, she'd be down by like 15, 20 meters and just kick at the end and walk them down like 5 meters before the finish line to pass them for the win. So, I mean, it was exciting. Like,
She got an it factor.
She do. Like that last kick, she finishes strong.
Mm-hmm. She's got the true 6th gear, 5th gear, whatever it may be. There you go. Proof is in the pudding,
man.
man.
Whichever one it is, she kicks into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to watch. But I rock with the track. You know the Olympics are coming up shortly, so we're definitely going to chop it up about some more of that. Definitely got some French Open action headed for. Like, man, we got a full docket.
Yeah, we diverse tonight, baby.
So let's jump on in, man. We're going to hit you first with the off the tops. You know, we always like to cover a interesting, funny, sometime crazy tweet. This time it comes from none other than the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yes, I actually gave you the name today.
That is a first.
It's going to be
that
real
is a
tonight.
First. Yeah, we in for it.
I didn't even know I was going to do that. They asked Giannis about the matchup against the Nets, and his response was they have great players. KD, Kyrie, Jeff Green. What happened to James Harden?
Oh, he left him off?
That's all he said. KD, Kyrie, and Jeff Green.
I'm gonna take a guess. It's gonna be like one of those when, like, this is where I'm worst about it, when people are like, hey man, what's your top 5 wide receivers of all time, or top 10, and like you might leave out like a Marvin Harrison, or you know, whatever it may be for like a top 10 guy that maybe should or shouldn't be there. You're just thinking too fast. Hopefully it was that for Giannis. Maybe he's trying to forget about Harden because he sometimes shrinks in the playoffs, but we can't take away from the fact either that Giannis isn't amazing in the playoffs as well. I mean, he's still got to prove something to us, you know, still to get that monkey off your back. Hell, I just hope he was just kind of thinking too quick, because I mean, he's definitely going to see Harden. He's going to see Kyrie. He's going to see KD. You got Blake Griffin over there. Like, we know they've got people. Yeah. And like you just said, I mean, the other night, 125 points against any other team in the NBA, that's a win. Against Brooklyn, no, they're going to outscore you by 15-20. So, yeah. I don't know. Probably going to have some Harden and Giannis memes, if I had to guess. It's just how the NBA unfolds. We're real social here. Got a lot going, you know, the condensed season. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I would like to think it's that, but it's absolutely not. Harden and Giannis have had beef for a couple of years now.
Okay.
You know, I remember a few years back, Harden in an interview was like, well, you know, it doesn't really take any skill to be 7 feet tall and jump over people and dunk. He was speaking directly on Giannis. He just took crazy shots at him, and Giannis has not forgotten about that. That's why he left James Harden out. He don't like him. Remember, even when they were doing the selections for the All-Star game, I can't remember who Giannis picked, but he made it a point to be like, yeah, I want to play with someone who's going to pass the ball.
Ouch.
Well, he didn't pick him. I mean, he does not like James Harden. I mean, they may not have no like, oh, I'll spit on you when I see you type of beef. Mm-hmm. But they don't care for each other.
Yeah, well, then
that's very clear.
In that case, then yeah, it was deliberate. I just hope that there's not going to be some Harden, you know, Giannis, some sort of play on the floor where Giannis might be scapegoat or whatever the case may be. You know, you see it in the past where beef will be going back and forth, and okay, I got the last laugh though because I made the meme out of you. I had the play on the floor, so you know, we'll see what happens, man. It's definitely interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, he don't want to poke that bear. I mean, you've been watching and you see what the Nets are doing.
Exactly.
Like, y'all don't want that. The Bucks getting met every year by somebody that sends them home, and then we have the same conversation. Like, all right, Giannis keeps winning all these MVs, and he can't get it done in the playoffs. It's going to be nothing different.
Right.
The Nets are no different from what he ran into with Toronto, what he ran into with Miami. This year, it's the Brooklyn Nets. All 3 years, same result. Giannis goes home, not even a trip to the finals, let alone validating the status that he's actually lifted himself up to, being back-to-back MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
His style just don't get it done. He's got to develop some type of jump shot, some type of handles. He needs more to his game.
Right. The game definitely now is, it's like a lot of people say, like the talent in sports today is ridiculous. It's more than ever, and especially when you look at the NBA, there's so many stars. Like, I think the NBA is the only sport where you can say, oh, yeah, he's a top 50 player, and they can still potentially win you a championship. Like, it doesn't work like that in baseball. It doesn't work like that in the NFL. There's so much talent in the NBA. I mean, it's ridiculous, you know? So when you look at how it all plays out, it's like, geez, okay. All right, then.
Yeah, man. So we're going to use that to segue on into our first segment for the day. We call it Pumpkin or Slipper. We got to talk about these Cinderellas. So
There's
we
a lot
look
of
through
them.
who's going through the playoffs right now. We'll talk about who's legit. If they're legit, they'll get a slipper. If they're not, they're getting a pumpkin. So look, what we got for this, Adam?
Man, so first, the Atlanta Hawks, they're playing right now. Hawks are they're looking good so far in the playoffs, up 3-1. Knicks right now, actually, current score update, 18-17 with about 2 to go in the first quarter. So we'll see. It's probably going to be a really close game tonight. You know, probably sold out in the Garden, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be crazy for the Hawks. I mean, can Trae Young handle the crowd? He's definitely been doing it already. Been seeing some John Collins. But overall, man, tell me, are the Hawks going to get a pumpkin or a slipper, you think, to start this one off?
Oh, the Hawks are getting a pumpkin. And there's not any slight to them. They do have the 3-1 lead over the Knicks, just like you just outlined. Trae Young is hooping. I mean, he's averaging 27.5 points, 10 assists. I mean, so as far as playoffs, he's 10th in scoring, 4th in assists. Great playoff debut. Looks like they'll easily make their way into the second round. The reason why I give them a pumpkin is because of the teams that they'll have to face. If they have to play a healthy 76ers, then there's no way I'm taking them to win that series. Granted, we do know that Joel Embiid has a partially torn meniscus.
Yep.
So
Very tough to play with.
We have to look at that development to see that if the Hawks actually have a chance to make it out of the second round. If he's healthy, then the second round is where they stop.
Right.
But regardless, then you would have to play the Nets. So, I mean, they're not getting a pumpkin because they're not good. They have lots of promise. They're a very good team, and they're very young. So they got a lot of room to improve from a very high place. I mean, the expectations are going to do nothing but climb in years to come.
Absolutely.
But as far as 2021, like right now, they're getting a pumpkin.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm going to take the opposite, and I'm going to go with slipper because, like you just said, these guys really do have a lot of talent on the Hawks, and it just feels like they're lacking that one true veteran leader. Like, when you look at everybody, I think Clint Capella being how old is he, 24, 27, something like that, you know, not been in the league for extremely long, but he is a veteran over there, you know, great rebounder for the Atlanta Hawks, and he's really a huge contributor for this team. But when you look at Trae Young, you know, he's young, but he's very ball dominant, and this is his team. He loves to score. He loves to be very hands-on. Now we're finally seeing some John Collins, with the exception of the horrible game 2 when he played like 20 minutes. I mean, he's averaging about 32 a game. He put up 22 points. I want to say 24 points in the last game. So we're starting to see what I've been talking about with, okay, can Trae Young finally get that second piece to him, that consistent number 2, like you were just saying before we got on the air. And another thing you want to look at is, I mean, when Lloyd Pierce was here, this team was 14-20, 17-20 at one point in the season. Everybody was talking about how terrible they were in the fourth quarter. The Hawks going into the fourth quarter under under Lloyd Pierce, they were like a -17. I mean, they were awful. Every time they were in the fourth quarter, they could not perform. You bring in McMillan, and just within a few games, I mean, they go on the 8-game win streak, and they're immediately plus double digits in the fourth quarter, and they're looking absolutely great. I mean, you look at Trae Young with a plus-minus of 7.8 in these playoffs. That's pretty good if you consider overall plus-minuses and what everybody's performing with in the playoffs. And the reason why I give him a slipper is we were talking about Joel Embiid, and there's a chance that he could try to stretch out that meniscus, but I don't think it's smart. He shouldn't put his career in jeopardy. I mean, look at Anthony Davis. You consider all the fallings he had with his body, and then, I mean, look at Nerlens Noel. Coming out of college, huge prospect, hits his knee on the goal, and he's never been the same. And he's just kind of scraping up for the Knicks now, part of this little story that we're talking about. But if Joel goes down and you have these Hawks that are surging, you have a Nate McMillan who has played and been through the NBA, is extremely respected, and he's turned this Hawks team around. Like, I'm kind of disappointed when we were talking a little while ago about Coach of the Year. I didn't mention him. I put the guy who's playing against him, Tom Thibodeau, but I mean, you could easily look at Nate McMillan. So when we're talking about this team, I mean, maybe having a ceiling of the ECF, it's kind of looking realistic. So I'm going to give them a slipper for this one.
I mean, that's definitely a great ceiling for where they are, but
ultimate ceiling, though. Ultimate ceiling.
You're not getting a slipper unless you can make the finals.
Right. It's got to be the full title run.
Not from me.
Yeah. Got to be the full title run for you.
So you already know, judging from mine, only one team is getting a slipper.
Well, now we're on to the next team here, man. The New York Knicks, of course, going up against the Hawks right now. Down 3-1, looking bad. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Julius Randle's tried to turn it around, but I think the thing is Julius Randle kind of was trying to find a spot in the NBA. He's here with the Knicks now, but now he's got the crowd there. And now it's just a little more of a difference in his career compared to last year. Is he able to handle the pressure? I mean, he's the most improved player. He's the best player on this team, or so we thought until now. Derrick Rose is leading them in scoring. So the New York Knicks, we're probably going to be both the same here, but pumpkin or slipper for you?
Oh, pumpkin, definitely. I mean,
big Julius old jack-o'-lantern.
Julius Randle was hooping coming into the season. I mean,
Absolutely.
The dude was averaging 24, 10, and 6. Now in the playoffs, he's down to 17 and 11.
Yep.
I mean, his scoring is down. They absolutely need that because the games have been tight. If he could be around or above his average, then they wouldn't be in this 3-1 hole.
Absolutely.
But I mean, in addition to him, I mean, the team just hasn't really shut up around him, but it's been him carrying them through the season. I mean, they came in pumping their chest with a number 4 seed. It was a really good year for them, especially considering how bad the Knicks have been for so long. So, I mean, this is very much a confidence-building season, especially with Derrick Rose having like a resurgence of his career. Got Obi Toppin has been promising in spots. So, I mean, the Knicks aren't looking bad at all. The future is looking bright, just like what I said for the Atlanta Hawks. The New York Knicks will be here in the Eastern Conference for years to come. It's just not this year.
Right.
And especially after their fans spit on Trae Young, you get an extra pumpkin for that. So that's ridiculous. So, like, I don't know why you guys have sucked for so long. And then you're going to come out here and act like you can spit on the other team's best player?
They were locked away, man. That's their excuse, right?
It's like, come on, bro. Y'all think, I know y'all have this persona of, the New Yorkers are gritty and grimy or whatever else you want to call yourself, but you spitting on people, man?
Right.
Like, seriously? Like, that didn't happen here. You came to Atlanta, you got whooped, and they came back up there, but ain't nobody get spit on.
Exactly.
Y'all got some good old-fashioned Southern hospitality and sent back home.
I absolutely agree with you, man. And I'm going to give the Knicks a pumpkin as well. This team is still very young, and they're in for a bright future, like you said. The future does look very good for the Knicks because you've had these reports now of it feels like the culture is rebuilding. It feels like those Knicks that kind of had their little run back, a few years ago, more than a few years ago, obviously, within the NBA. And now you're having talks about, okay, they might go for a superstar. They might get a bigger reach. I mean, who knows? People are talking about if Kawhi potentially gets bounced first round, or if for some reason the Nuggets couldn't make it to the finals, and within a couple years, you could see potentially Nikola Jokic, obviously, with the New York Knicks, or maybe there's so many
crazy.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many superstars out there. Some people say a Jimmy Butler, maybe. Some people say a Kawhi Leonard. The culture is starting to turn around now. But unfortunately, like we were saying, unlike Trae Young, Julius Randle's not playing very well. And you hate to see this for the team's best player and the guy that was most improved throughout the season. And another thing you take a look at is who's going to help Derrick Rose. I mean, he's the leading scorer of the team right now, and he's really having to claw for these points. This is where, a lot of people said in the regular season, oh, the Knicks are great. They play hard. They're a really physical team. They play the entire 48 minutes. Well, when you get to the playoffs, really everybody plays hard because the intensity is much higher, and you're going to be diving for those extras, and you're going to be going for those extra rebounds, and you're going to be putting that 200% in because you know what's on the line. Like I said, it's a pumpkin for me for the Knicks, but this team does have a bright future. I mean, I could see potentially, I'd say at the most 3 years, they could see a big superstar landing in there. And I mean, if they keep Randle on the up and up, maybe can somehow sweet talk Derrick Rose. I mean, they'll have a nice little 3 to where it might not be a lock, but they'll be a tough out, So next team here, the Phoenix Suns, probably one of the craziest stories. You see them absolutely, going off in the bubble, bringing in Chris Paul. You kind of see some elevation of DeAndre Ayton, and of course, Devin Booker, still the crazy shot creator that he could be. Probably on the same page here too, but Phoenix Suns, pumpkin or slipper?
Man, well, before I even give you what I'm going to give them, I'm just tired of CP3 getting all the credit for this. They look really good in the bubble. They went 8-0, so they came in with momentum. They had a much better season this year than what they did last year, piggybacking off of that campaign.
Yep.
Chris Paul is averaging 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. His numbers are on par with Rajon Rondo's, but he's being credited with turning the team all the way around.
Yep.
This is the Devin Booker show. Devin Booker is absolutely that guy. And for that reason, them coming into the 2 seed, I'm going to give them the slipper.
Okay.
The Phoenix Suns are getting a slipper from me. And you know I don't like CP3, so they're really just that good.
Yeah, that shocks me.
They get the slippers. I mean, they got a 3-2 lead over the Lakers. The Lakers look like they're reeling, so it looks like they're going to get out of the first round. But whoever they get in the next 2 rounds, they have very good records against them. They are 3-0 against the Jazz this season. So they're really not concerned with playing Utah at whatever point. Well, they would have to meet them in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
Not worried about Utah. Denver Nuggets, they were 1-2 against them. The 2 games that they lost were overtime games in which Jamal Murray averaged 25 points a game against them this season. Ain't no more Jamal Murray.
Exactly.
So they're not worried about the Denver Nuggets either. But if they so happen to have to play the Clippers, 1-2 against them, the 2 losses were tight games. Or the Dallas Mavericks, 3-0. They swept the Mavericks. It's like the Phoenix Suns are looking up and way up. They take the Lakers out. The finals is the limit for them. They can easily make it to the finals, given the road they have in front of them, with the Lakers being injury-ridden, old, or whatever you want to call them.
I'm really shocked you just gave them a slipper. I was close to giving them a slipper because when you look at, like I said, the elevation of DeAndre Ayton, obviously Devin Booker's the number one. You've got the leadership and you've got the I've been here before extreme basketball knowledge in Chris Paul. I mean, and we didn't even mention Jay Crowder. You know, they've got guys out there who can shoot threes, who can see the floor well, and overall they're contributing to the success of this team extremely well. It is going to be a pumpkin for me though, because this is still a very young team at the end of the day. And I mean, we're not going to say that Chris Paul is still in any sort of great shape for his career. He's nursing a very lingering shoulder injury. We saw in the game last night when I saw him grimacing like that. I mean, I was like, ooh, because it took the commentators a minute to kind of catch on. And I was like, is everybody seeing this? Like, is Chris Paul okay? And he was just extremely grimacing. You know, I thought he might have been out for good, ended up coming back, and you saw the tears in his eyes. You really saw the fight from Chris Paul in that moment. But Chris Paul, as great of a leader as he is, as much knowledge as he does have, he's still on the back 9, and I don't think he's a game changer. He's just more of a manager. Hey, I can elevate the team from a mental perspective, and like I've said, because I've been here before, but you said it yourself, just shy of 10 points, 7 assists, a few rebounds. Chris Paul is, nothing like he used to be. No. But here's also the thing. Could they potentially take advantage of the moment, like you said? I'm glad you went with the slipper here because take a look at it. Lakers are on the ropes. LeBron James is obviously, you see it sputtering out. Anthony Davis is having his issues as well. The Warriors might be back next year to compete. I know Klay Thompson hasn't played in a couple years, but you still got Steph Curry. Maybe they make a move for a superstar. You never know what's going to potentially happen. And for me, the Clippers still need to prove something to me for me to truly buy in and believe, okay, yeah, I'm going to have to worry about them later on down the road. So you have a very good point about it being a slipper. I mean, these Suns could make a run, and I'd love to see it finally happen for Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, great players in the NBA. I'd love to see it happen for them. So it's a very good possibility. Now we're on to who they're really battling it out with, and the Suns are up 3-2 in the series. Looking at the LA Lakers, man. Pumpkin or slipper?
Oh, Maker's Mark. They're getting the
Jameson.
The Lakers are getting a pumpkin. Definitely getting a pumpkin. They came in as a 7th seed all season long. We've been talking about, well, they're battling injuries. They're old. They'll get it together. This team is built for the playoffs. The playoffs have been no different from the regular season.
Right.
You're still battling injuries. You still look old. When they made all these moves, it looked like they were a super team, and now everyone has failed LeBron. So I don't know if the narrative is going to be that LeBron is running out of gas, or they'll blame it on the failure of all of the moves that they made.
Right.
Because what happened to Marc Gasol? What happened to Wesley Matthews?
Yep.
Where is Andre Drummond? Where is Dennis Schroeder?
Yep.
What happened to Kyle Kuzma? I mean, we were looking at what Alex Caruso as being a heavy contributor. If Anthony Davis isn't there to give you 30, the Lakers aren't that good.
Nope.
They can't score.
He's really played 2 games in this series.
Yeah, like he had 2 good games. They won those 2 games.
Exactly.
Like LeBron, he looks like he's starting to run out of gas. He's still able to give you very good contributions, but he can't carry the team anymore. Right. He needs the other guys, and it seemingly like it looked like he had them. like earlier when they picked up all these guys that I just named, people were like, oh, like this is a super team. It's unfair. He's bringing
Lakers
in
gonna repeat.
everybody.
Right.
There's no chance for anyone. And then they lined them up against the Nets stars and everyone that the Nets brought in. It's like, it's going to be these two super teams. Nobody else in the league stands a chance. And now as it stands, it's only LeBron. The rest of them are gone.
Yep.
Anthony Davis because of injury. The rest of them, they're just not that good anymore.
They're not at all.
That's why the Lakers got them, because the teams let them go.
Yep.
They saw the writing on the wall. So they're absolutely getting the pumpkin. I mean, returning NBA champions trying to repeat, coming in as a 7th seed, and now you have injury problems and you look old.
Yep.
Pumpkin all day.
Absolutely. It was a slipper for me until last night. Until obviously, Anthony Davis goes down, and I mean, or not until last night, until AD went down, or hell, even last night, it was ugly, until Anthony Davis went down with the injury. And you got to look, LeBron's aging, he's slipping in this series. This is his worst playoff series in a very long time. Same thing with rebounds. But oddly enough, this is his 3rd best assist output in the NBA playoffs. When you look at the fact that he's only putting up 22 points, when you look at the fact that he's only snagging 7 rebounds, like, yeah, that's still good numbers for playoffs, but it's not LeBron James. It's not what he needs to be doing right now. It's going to be a pumpkin for me as well, because who is LeBron truly getting help of? Only 3 players on the Lakers roster score in double figures. You got LeBron at 22, AD at 22, who's played 2 games. You got Schroeder at like 13.2. Everybody else is below that. 9 points, 8 points, 6 points.
Night.
Terrible.
He didn't score.
No points, no help at all. I mean, people can say, oh, yeah, LeBron's got to be 2018 plus 20%. Okay, cool. Go out there and average 42 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists a game. You're still not going to win. And you're not at that prime anymore. You're not at that shape anymore. All due respect to LeBron. Everybody watching this knows we're not knocking LeBron James. He's been the best player in the NBA, arguably, for the last 15 years. There's no question about that. But when you look at what's going on this year, it's really hard to put the slipper on it, because it's going to be very tough. And like I said, Anthony Davis grimacing in pregame, yeah, that doesn't look very good. Now we're on to the Grizzlies. Ja Morant, huge star. Love the kid. I mean, he demands a lot. He's going to be a great player, obviously, coming up. And I mean, if the jump shot will just continue to develop, he's already demanding in the, by the bucket. But for the Grizzlies, pumpkin or slipper for you?
For the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to have to give them a pumpkin, but I'm going to place the Grizzlies on the same level as I did the Hawks and the Knicks. They're getting the pumpkin just because they're down 3-1 to Utah. They're definitely going to get sent home.
Right.
They've got a lot of young talent. Ja Morant is killing it in his playoff debut. 31 points per game, 7.5 assists. And the young boy, Dylan Brooks, 3rd-year guy out of Oregon. He's averaging 25-5. And he's up 7 points a game, or 8 points.
Right.
He's up 8 points per game from his regular season average. So he's stepped up as well. The Grizzlies look good. They have promise. They do need a few pieces to help these guys, but the team is really young. They have a really bright future. I have to give them a pumpkin for right now, but they're absolutely on their way to making some actual noise in the Western Conference moving forward.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. 824 is creeping up on us. But, I mean, you said it all perfectly there, man. Averaging 42 minutes the last 3 games as only your 2nd year in the NBA, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, we remember LeBron averaging 42 minutes a game his entire 2nd year in the NBA. So seeing that from Ja Morant, especially in the playoffs, crunch time. But we got the alarm going. Did she beat you with the text today? Or you got her?
Not yet. I'm sending it as we speak.
Yeah, you got it preloaded. Y'all already know what time it is. 824. Every Wednesday at 8:24 on Petty Sportz, we pay homage to the Black Mamba, the late, great Kobe Bean. Fees, I'll let you take it, man. Count us down.
3, 2, 1.
Kobe! That was a left hand, but all due respect, you know what I'm saying? I'm resting up right here.
Kobe shot threes with his left hand. He shot free throws with his left hand. The dude was a killer.
Bro. Did it all, man.
He's the Mamba for a reason.
Absolutely. No question about that. But like you were saying about the Grizzlies, I mean, you said it all perfectly. Very young team. Obviously, they got Ja Morant. And Valanciunas is, slightly upticking for the team. And he's going to be a good 2. Maybe not a true 2, but he could be maybe a nice 3 or a 4. If there was a title run, I could see Valanciunas taking that role, kind of like you had with a Fred VanVleet. Wasn't really a major guy, kind of like a Mike Miller for the Heat back in the day. Wasn't a major guy. When you plugged him in on a title run, oh, God, his 12 or 13 points, you dreaded those because they came when you didn't need him to. And the knowledge is slowly increasing in players like that.
Yep.
And Ja's just going to get better. I love what Ja brings to the table. And overall, yeah, it is going to be a pumpkin for me. Before we head out of here, though, Damian Lillard. Those Blazers, obviously, Dame. I mean, last night, what a game for double overtime. I mean, what can we say about Damian Lillard? Absolutely putting on a show, back-to-back clutch moments, 55 points, and still can't get it done. Blazers, pumpkin or slipper feast.
Yeah, man. 55 points, set a playoff record for 12 made three-pointers, and it was 12 out of 17. It wasn't like he shot 30 of them. Like, he was just
That is
lights
lethal.
out. Dude has 17 points in the 2 overtimes out of the team's 19. It was just Dame playing against them by himself. It was crazy. But I'm still giving the Portland Trail Blazers a pumpkin. And why I'm giving them a pumpkin is because I'm tired of Portland. Every single year for the past 4 years, we've been like, oh, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Portland is a contender. Portland's my dark horse. Portland's going to be the best team in there. Like, they're going to come out of the Western Conference. Like, how long does Portland get a pass? It's Dame balling out in the first round sometimes. Last year, Dame destroyed the bubble. Same thing we saw last night. We saw that for those 8 bubble games. And then what did we see in the playoffs? 4-1, sit home, first round to the Lakers. Year before that, they did make it to the Western Conference Finals, and he did have some of those moments, just like what we saw. So remember, he sent OKC home, stared down Russell Westbrook. Him and Westbrook have like a real legit beef. And then, he was talking crazy trash to Paul George.
Love those rivalries.
So he sent them home, game-winning, series-winning shot. So, Dame is crazy clutch in the first round of the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
But when we get past the first round, what is he doing?
Exactly.
The year before that, they got swept 4-0 by the Pelicans with Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins. It's like he gets sent home, and when they get sent home, he plays bad and they lose bad.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2 sweeps and a 4-1. Like, this series right here is probably the best that he's done in an early round series. As good as he's played, you can't blame it all on Damian Lillard, but just the Portland Trailblazers as a whole, CJ McCollum doesn't show up.
Right.
Carmelo Anthony forgot he was even on the team.
Right.
Until he missed one. The game last night, you can blame it on a combination of Covington missing that point-blank dunk and then CJ McCollum coming back down and stepping out of bounds. It's like, man, Dame should have just kept shooting.
Exactly. Just kept spraying away.
All in all, the Portland Trailblazers are getting a pumpkin from me.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. Pumpkin for me as well. Dame doing everything for this team as usual. When you put up 55 points and you can't even come away with a win, obviously that says there's no help around there for you, because if you had 55 and someone else might have had another little chunk of points and then someone else, you probably would have came away with that W, considering how that was a double overtime game. You probably just would have been hitting it to seal the win or to take the lead, not to come in and tie it. But here's the thing, really, before we move on to the next topic. Is Dame walking, or do the Blazers get him some help, you think?
Well, Dame has already expressed his loyalty, and he doesn't really like the current climate of the NBA where players are actually teaming up. Mm-hmm. He's got the old school mentality, so I don't really see him leaving.
Yeah.
I have seen players say things and then go back and do the exact opposite, a la KD. Mm-hmm. Seems like everybody wants to go to the Heat and the Lakers. I just want to beat these guys, and all of a sudden you went to multiple super teams. So I don't know that Dame is like KD, but we have heard statements like what Dame said and then seen the player do the opposite. So right now I would say no, but that could easily change.
Right. Absolutely. Seeing sports, man, all the time, we say, oh, this will never happen. They'll never do this. And then it comes out and boom, right in front of us unfolds. And we all look stupid for it. I could see Dame potentially being on the move, because this is a guy, early 30s, late 20s, obviously getting his career. One of the most clutch players of all time. Amazing shooter. Amazing handles. He's a generational talent. He is going to be a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. We know who Damian Lillard is. And, wondering if it was LaMarcus Aldridge, if it was, CJ McCollum, whoever it might have been, I feel like he's still missed that one true number 2 to him. Someone who could kind of mirror him, but have a little more toughness to him, That's who Lillard really needs at this point in his career. And I could see him maybe venturing out to make a big superstar move, or Portland will have to make a big move, because eventually, you don't want to get it to where he resents it, because you feel like, look at Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, it's not this way, but he feels like they're not getting him help. You don't want to have your superstar potentially going through that, especially in the NBA, being a star-driven league. So I'm right there with you. Definitely going to be a pumpkin on these Blazers, and I think that does it for this segment, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. That's actually a nice parallel with him in the Aaron Rodgers situation. It is kind of similar.
It is.
Not quite on Aaron Rodgers' level as far as it relates to the NBA, but similar.
In terms of delusion and pettiness, definitely not.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we're going to change gears. We're taking it all the way to tennis. We're going to the hard courts of the French Open. I know they play on clay, for somebody who want to try to check me on saying hard courts. We're talking about Naomi Osaka.
Uh-huh.
She withdrew from the 2021 French Open moments after her first round straight set victory, and she was fined $15,000 for not showing up to her mandatory media obligations. And I mean, it's a whole situation. I mean, the 23-year-old Naomi Osaka, she's a 4-time Grand Slam winner. She's got 2 Australian Opens, 2 US Opens. But she came out and she sent out a very long tweet. And just to summarize it, paraphrase it, she said that she was battling with long bouts of depression. She gets social anxiety. She doesn't like to talk to the media. That's why lots of times she wears earbuds to try to tune everything out. And she felt like she was going to choose herself and her mental health and just withdraw from the tournament. So, I mean, that decision, it's gotten a lot of reaction.
Yep.
I haven't heard any backlash, actually. She's gotten a lot of support from all of her endorsers, be it Nike, Tag Heuer. Who else is she with? She has like a noodle company. I think it's called Nissan. Mm-hmm. Says quite a lot of the companies that endorse her, they've all openly spoken out and really supported her decision. A lot of former and current tennis players, as well as other athletes, have spoken out in support of Naomi. And I've heard some other crazy things that go right along with it. So my question here is, what should the governing bodies in tennis do to address this issue?
In terms of Naomi, like, opting out because of her whole fine thing?
No, just with addressing like the mental health and she's having an issue with media members attacking players because she actually cited she's seen players have like full-scale breakdowns after a loss and then they get attacked by the media.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about what they should truly do to impact this, I think they should stand behind the fact that mental health is this important, because you look, when she was talking about it, she's been dealing with depression since 2018 after she came away with a victory. She's been dealing with anxiety every time she goes to stand in front of the media, like you said. And a lot of people don't understand that we like to hold these athletes to these standards that we wouldn't hold ourselves to. Just because they might have a net worth of $500 million and they're an all-timer and they get paid $70,000 a second, whatever the case may be, doesn't mean they're not human at the end of the day. When you need to take a break, I'm behind Naomi for this. You see Michael Phelps reaching out saying great. You see Venus or Serena reaching out. Obviously, you even see going as far as LeBron James, Tom Brady. People are behind her for this because this type of stuff is important. And let me even channel it even further. You remember Ricky Williams? He used to do interviews with his helmet on, because he was so affected by the media. And people were kind of wondering, okay, does he get it up here? Is he cut out for this stuff? Then it comes out, he was smoking weed a lot while he was playing and trying to calm himself down. And I wasn't mad at the guy. Yes, obviously, we're just talking about weed there. It's not that bad. But when we're talking about clearing the anxiety and the depression, you got to help yourself. At the end of the day, you're asked a lot. And when you're drafted high up or when you're brought into a sport, you're put on this really unrealistic pedestal. And let's take it even another step further. The media is brutal. We talk about Zach Wilson a bit. I think 65% of the reason he's going to fail in New York is because of the media. Media and expectations will immediately make you go downhill. Of course, he's not a good quarterback like we both think, but a huge part, what's going to be a part of his quick demise is going to be the media and the expectations. Because when you have someone that's going to be reactive to what you're doing, which the media, and you have expectations, your coaches, your teammates, and again, the media, you're on a pedestal. So, I'm behind her for it. And I understand people are saying, oh, well, she knows how it is. She knows what's coming. She's been in this a long time. Okay, and she finally cracked. Why are you going to be on her for that? Mental health is extremely important. You need to be behind it. And everything starts and stops up here, whether you're a janitor or you're the CEO of Nike. Everything starts and stops up in the brain, man. And if you're not right up there, you're a completely different person. It's like when people react, out of anger. Oh, I wasn't thinking straight. And I even think about me, man, going through kind of feeling like you're at a crossroads sometime in your life. What do I want to do? Where do I really want to put all my energy? And that comes back to mental health. And if you don't take a step back, plan for it, and just try to recalibrate. If you don't take, like I've told you before, if you don't take a chance to rest, your body will take the chance for you. Mm-hmm. So I'm behind her on it. And honestly, I think they need to embrace it. They don't need to be so over the top, but they need to be supportive and not combative on this situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of what you said. I mean, they're definitely like they have taken steps to be supportive. I mean, all 4 Grand Slam leaders have actually come out in a group statement to let her know that they support her and they're behind her and they're definitely with the stance that she took. And I mean, I think it's definitely well within her rights to feel like that, and she can absolutely take her time out. I mean, mental health is very serious. But as far as the fines and everything, it's there's a system put in place.
Right.
It's
she'll just pay it and get on with it.
As ridiculous as to some people it may sound, when you sign on to be a professional athlete, you also sign on to a media obligation because unbeknownst to apparently a lot of people, the media, as far as the sponsorships and the TV deals, are the reason why the athletes make the amount of money they do. They don't pay all of their salary, but that's where the lion's share of that money comes from.
Absolutely.
And for those media outlets to pay the organizations the type of money they pay to cover their athletes within those contracts,
ticket sales,
they have an obligation to speak to the media. I know it can be brutal. And I mean, hey, if you want to take some time off, I think they should offer something like maybe you can have an option to withdraw without garnering the fines or any penalty future, because they do actually have a repeat offender issue with within tennis.
Right.
Where you start getting bigger fines and you start getting suspensions for future tournaments.
Yep.
So, I mean, they can absolutely implement some things to circumvent the future charges if you come forth. And it doesn't have to be a public thing. If you let them know what your situation is, then they can grant you that. I think they could absolutely do that. And they can even probably go as far as giving the media members that interview the athletes some type of sensitivity training. But as far as keeping the media away from them, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've even heard people go as far as saying that we should boycott the French Open. Why? The French Open did not do anything.
What?
She did not want to talk to the media, and then she explained why.
Yeah.
And they issued
it very well.
They issued the fine before she even told them why she didn't do it. But
exactly.
The fact of the matter is, just what they tried to explain is the rules are in place to make sure that all players are treated equally, regardless of where you're ranked, how good you are, what your media status is, who you're regardless of anything. They want everybody to have the same slate down the board. It wouldn't be fair at all. They're like, well, she doesn't have to talk to the media, but all of you do. And if you do, then you'll get fined.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not like they're doing anything that's favoritism or anything that's actually ridiculous, because that's written within their contract that they actually have to talk to the media.
Exactly.
Some of the questions that are asked are a little ridiculous. I mean, you can't justify everything that the reporters say out of their mouths, but the fact of the matter remains that they actually have to speak to them.
Exactly.
And it's not just in tennis. That's all the way across the board.
Right. And let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
You remember the Marshawn Lynch fiasco? I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm thankful.
He had to talk.
I'm thankful.
So he was like, okay, I've got to be up here.
Yep.
Every question you ask, I'm going to say, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yep.
And he was laughing with it.
Yeah.
He thought it was funny. He was like,
and he was within the parameters, apparently.
But I stood up here and technically I spoke.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just basically what it is. They have to speak to the media, because at the end of the day, being a professional athlete is a privilege and a choice. They don't have to do that as a profession.
Exactly.
That's part of the contract that you sign.
Exactly.
So if you need time, then by all means, take your time.
Right.
Nobody is saying, I don't care what you feel like, you have to sit up and talk and withhold the media obligation. But if you don't want to, then
there's going to be repercussions.
Let them know. You can step to the side, and there will definitely be monetary issues with it, because it's a business.
Absolutely.
If you say you need months off from your job, they might say fine. They might fire you. If they say fine, then what they're not going to do is pay you too.
Yep.
It is what it is. I mean, I definitely hope that she reaches a place where she can come back, because I definitely love watching her. I mean, I love watching tennis.
Right.
It's a great sport. I mean, she was definitely one of the favorites to actually come out and win this thing, especially, I mean, she was hot. She just won the Australian Open. But in the wake of what happened, hopefully she's able to come back sooner than later, and she'll be all right. But I don't think a whole lot needs to actually happen in regards to tennis making concessions.
Right. I'm right there with you. I totally understand you on that. And here's the thing with Naomi Osaka. She's a top athlete in this world, very rich, very wealthy. And there's very few things in this world that you can't put a price on, and mental health is one of them. If I was her, and if it came down to that, I'm paying the money all day. I'm paying for the peace of mind. I'm paying for the long term down the road, not having to torture myself in that moment and then potentially overthink down and whatever the case may be. But when it comes down to that, it is a business, like you said, and you got to make the decision. So me, her, we'll just pay it, man. We'll just go forward with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, with Naomi withdrawing from the tournament, who now is the favorite to win the French Open on the women's side?
Yeah, man. So, we had to do some digging for this one. There's a lot of ladies up there that could take this one home. But I'm definitely taking a look at Ashley Barty. She's a very crafty player when you take a look at her, the current women's #1 right now. And she's been dominant on the tour for the most part, recently winning the Miami Open. So you got to give respect to that. And then, reaching the Madrid finals. There's definitely respect for that there as well. Quarterfinals at the Italian Open. So she shows some consistency to where when these tournaments and when these majors come around, she's here for the long haul. Now, unfortunately, she hasn't been great in terms of Grand Slam since about the 2019 French Open. She has kind of struggled there, had some injury history, and we know that tennis is a very, very interesting sport. It might seem like, it's laid back and it's easy, but no, these guys are, they're out there hustling. They're putting in the 120, 130 hours, how much it might ever take, throughout the week or whatever. But Ashley Barty, taking a look at her, she's got a good chance to take it away, and she's got a lot of competition with her as well, but being the current women's #1 and showing that she's got consistency, and on the tour, she's looking well so far, so I would make it a safe bet with her for sure. But there's a lot of ladies out there.
Yeah, not mad at the Barty pick at all. She's #1 for a reason. But if you look at the draw that she's sitting in, she's on a side where she's going to end up having to play Kenin more than likely in the semifinals. So, that'll be a very tough match. I do think that Barty would be able to overcome that. But then you got Serena, you got Jennifer Brady, Sloane Stephens. I can't ever actually pick her. I like Sloane, but she just has not shown a consistency in the big tournaments. You got Mertens, Pliskova. There are a lot of big names here. Even Coco Gauff, she's still been making strides. I don't think Coco is quite on the level to actually take the Grand Slam title just yet. So, what I'm looking at as far as where they are in the draws, I'm going to take Serena to come in here and really piggyback off of the whole, of everything that's coming at Naomi Osaka right now. She's usually making it to the quarters or the semis, and the side of the draw she's on, I think Serena absolutely can make it to a final. I think probably the biggest foe that she'll have to face on the way there is Azarenka. I think she'll take her out. I'm taking Serena versus Barty in the final for the French Open. I think Serena finally gets over the hump and gets that Grand Slam title that she's been looking for so long. Since 2018 when Naomi Osaka beat her, she's been trying to get #24.
Right.
So I think she's going to get it this year.
Okay. It'll be a beautiful one.
It's coming
for
in
sure.
the French. So I can see that happen absolutely. So, man, we're going to take a short break. Mike Bell, he's going to run us these ads, make sure he pays these bills. And when we come back from the break, we're going to jump back into some NBA action with another heated topic. We're going to talk about these fans. They're a little ridiculous. Mike Beasley, take them away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. You are watching the Petty Sportz broadcast brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios each and every week, Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. You can tune in, check these guys out. Adam and Famous Facts feeds on deck every week, discussing the hottest topics, the hottest teams, the lowest teams, the maybe not so hot team. But appreciate you tuning in. Everybody share the show. If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know what I mean? I always say sharing is caring, you know what I mean? So we greatly appreciate everyone that has and everyone that tunes in every week. We see you in the chat room. Miss Mathis, Miss Sharper, Brother J-Bo, Miss Lamar out there. You know what I mean? We see you. We see you. Do feel free to call in if you have an opinion to express. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. Don't be afraid. Call in. Share. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Like, follow, subscribe, and listen to the show on those different platforms. That is Petty Sportz. That's with a Z. Sports with a Z. And you can check out some of the previously broadcast shows on those different platforms. Go to YouTube, Facebook, subscribe, like, follow, share. Not share. You can share, like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. Hit that notification bell so when they go hot, you'll be notified. Hit that like button. You know what I mean? You know, show some love. You know what I'm talking about? Go to kingsbroadcasting.com. Spend some money with your boys. Got plenty of merch over there. We got these tumblers. You see them on the table. The Petty Sportz mugs. We got the hoodies, the T-shirts. We got, you know, great gifts that you can share with others, especially sports fans, sports guys and gals. You can hang them on the wall in your she shed or your man cave. I mean, you can do so much with this stuff, man. You know what I mean? This is great gear. And it helps us to bring forth and keep coming hard with this content we bring forward each and every week. We greatly appreciate everybody going over to Kings Broadcasting. At the very bottom of the page, there is a donate button. Hit it, hit it, hit it. Spend some money. Spend some money with your boys. Support black business, support black business, support black businesses, because we do ATL. Back to the regular scheduled program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We appreciate that. Y'all make sure y'all support these black businesses. On that note, we about to segue back into the NBA. There's been a growing issue here in the NBA with fan incidents becoming more and more frequent in the playoffs. So we got to talk about this, man. We've had countless incidents just in the past week. We had a fan dump popcorn on Russell Westbrook's head. That was in Philly. A Knicks fan spit on Trae Young. A Celtics fan threw a bottle at Kyrie. A Wizards fan ran out on the court. And 3 Utah Jazz fans were removed from the arena for racist and sexually explicit remarks to Ja Morant's family.
Did not even know that about the Jazz.
It's getting way out of hand.
Wow.
And it's very, very frequent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen some of these things happen in the past. Never so many. I mean, this is 5 different incidents in the past week. And there have been other small things that didn't even quite make headlines. But, I mean, you remember 2004 Malice in the Palace? Fan threw a beer on Meta World Peace, and then the players actually just came for him, revolted, and that was a massacre where you actually got to see what professional players fighting fans look like. It's ugly. Like, y'all need to sit down. All of y'all need to sit down. But, I mean, we just look back, 2019, a little kid got up and pushed Russell Westbrook when he ran out of bounds, and Westbrook had to go over there and talk to him like, man, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, man, someone like, get your kid. Like, this is ridiculous. 2009, we had a Nuggets fan throw a beer bottle at the Hornets back when they were the New Orleans Hornets.
Yep.
We had a Celtics fan throw a vodka bottle at Lamar Odom. I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. Golden State's Warriors, it wasn't even a fan at Golden State. One of their investors, Mark Stevens, pushed Kyle Lowry when he fell out of bounds.
I remember that, and he got fined like $500K.
Yes, I mean, it's outlandish. Like, the fans are getting ridiculous. I mean, these things were kind of isolated and spread out. Now it's happening game after game, night after night. Some of these incidents actually happen in the same night.
You're right.
So, I mean, like, the NBA really is going to have to do something to send a message. So, I mean, what do you think that they actually can do to deter the fans from this idiocy?
Well, I know the NBA's put out a statement, with all these incidents and talking about, what's happened with people getting arrested and what they're getting charged with and this, and that. But I think they need to take it a step further. And I know it might sound extra, but obviously this is an increasing problem that we're seeing in the NBA. You just went, through a couple of them from a couple years back. And hell, you've even got these 4 or 5 just right here. I didn't even know that about the Jazz and Ja Morant. Like, that blows my mind. There is absolutely no excuse for that. I mean, that's terrible. But when you look at the fact that the NBA, if they truly wanted to, they could implement something, and it might already be in there, maybe within the ticket clause or whatever it may be, to where they have to understand that, even if it's a list of 25 or 30 things, like, these things are not allowed. You must be proctored or whatever it may be, made to read through these, so you understand that what's coming afterwards, like, that's going to be your consequence. Don't try to act surprised when I'm coming up to you. You want to say, oh, it was just a water bottle. No. When you bought your ticket, you'd sign something that says, hey, you should not interfere. You need to stay out of this, and this. And then it's kind of common sense, because another thing it takes me back to is, who the hell raised you? Like, how were you brought up? Is this really how you were taught to value people? Again, putting athletes on these unrealistic pedestals where we just think they're these superhumans and they can take or do whatever they want to do. No, it's not that way. And the NBA is the only sport that there's not a barrier between the fans and the players. NFL, you obviously got the wall, you got the sidelines, you got the field. MLB, you obviously got the wall there. You've got the track in between them. Hockey, you've got, even the glass there. Like, yes, that's a thin barrier, but when you're with the NBA, you're right there on court side. I mean, you could reach out and pull something out of their shorts if you wanted to. I mean, they're right there in front of you. And these fans, because there's not that barrier, they're getting a little extra and they're taking it that much farther because, I mean, let's be realistic. Yeah, the NBA might go out and charge for a felony or arrest this person, but is that truly going to fix what's happened? The NBA obviously has to come up with something to where this doesn't start to turn into a regular problem because this isn't good for the sport. The ratings are already down. And when you look at the fact that now you've got the fans interfering, this doesn't really happen in any other sport. I mean, you see like with the Braves a few years ago with the infield fly rule, people throwing stuff on the field. Earlier in the Braves season, Dansby Swanson actually spoke out on radio saying that he wasn't a fan of people throwing stuff on the field. And it was like, okay, well, he was probably, a teenager because he's very young, rather, for the Braves when the whole infield fly rule happened. Now you've got fans themselves interfering. No, this isn't trash. This isn't bottles. Now we've got fans speaking, being disrespectful. I'm not here for it at all. And obviously the NBA needs to implement something to show, like, this isn't a game. Yeah, you might be right here, but hell, they might have to change courtside seats. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of solutions to this issue. One being felony charges. For any player, like any fan that's involved in a player incident, if you were the one who initiated this, whatever your charge be, it should be a felony. Like, you put this on your permanent record, and it should really scar you and deter everyone from anything. Just like the guy who threw the water bottle at Kyrie, he's being brought up on assault and battery charges, and it's a assault with a deadly weapon.
Are you serious?
Yes, because the distance that he threw that bottle from, the bottle still had water in it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was a heavy bottle.
Wow.
If it had actually hit him, like I said, hit him in the face, hit him in the eye. I mean, if Kyrie Irving loses his eyesight and he can't play anymore because you hit him in the eye with a bottle.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong about that. I know people are going to be out there, oh, my God, Fee's being so dramatic. No, this type of stuff happens, like, just when you think it wouldn't. Like people say, don't throw the ball in the house. Don't play with a BB gun.
It seems far-fetched until it's not.
Again, how the hell were you raised? That's what I don't understand.
Like, you may think it sounds ridiculous for you to get a felony charge for throwing a bottle or throwing popcorn in the arena, but it's also ridiculous for you to interfere with a professional game.
Exactly.
It's outlandish.
You want someone coming up on you and you're on a construction site, poking you in the back if you're doing some sort of computer work, you want someone over there micromanaging, not even micromanaging, literally pestering you and making your job harder to where, because here's the thing, like I said, the fans don't have the physical barrier, but they also think that they just have this entitlement. Oh, I'm a fan. I paid this money. This is my right to be here because I paid for a ticket. Hell no. We see people escorted all the time from sporting. It don't matter if it's the finals and you're Spike Lee, dude. If you mess up, exactly, you're going. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think because I try to be a glass half full kind of guy. I think when it comes to not pressing charges on the people that are interfering, because obviously, these NBA players, they could really afford huge lawyers, whatever type of protection and authority that they wanted, versus an average civilian. They probably don't want to rob them per se, because maybe they were just being stupid, had a little too much to drink. There's no excuse, but maybe they don't want to extremely impact their lives like that as much as some people think it should be that way. I get what you're saying, though. With a guy like Westbrook, I would have been like, oh, let's make it happen. This is the third, fourth, fifth time for me. Like, I've been,
I didn't
pointing
even
at fans on the
half
side
of his incidents.
Exactly. Like, we're not even talking about OKC,
the fans
man.
come for Westbrook on a regular basis, and it's ridiculous.
Because they think they can.
They should press charges. Because I guarantee you, the second one of those players touches a fan, they're going to try to come for their contract. They want to sue the player. They're going to want to sue the league. It's going to be like, this is a life-changing incident because the player touched me.
Right.
So keep that same energy. If you want to press charges against them for acting like that, then be fully prepared to have your entire life ruined for you being stupid.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're going to be the reason why they end up closing off the first 5 rows all the way around the arena.
Exactly.
And then adjusting the ticket prices to offset the cost of there being no actual courtside seats. So now it's going to cost that much more to go to an NBA game.
Exactly.
You'll either get something like that, or you'll get something you really won't like, and there'll be a plexiglass barrier around the stadium, just like in hockey games.
Exactly.
All the way around the arena to make sure that you idiots can't throw anything at the players. You pay all that money to go in there and sit down and watch the players. I don't care how mad you are at the guy who's giving your team work. That means that he's good and your team needs to step up.
Right.
That don't mean you get to throw something at the players. You absolutely can't touch them.
Right.
If malice in the palace happens again, then you're going to be crying like, oh, my God, this super athlete jumped on me because I threw a bottle and hit him in the face, and then he punched me and broke my whole face.
Right.
And now I want to be compensated. No, you asked for that.
Exactly.
There should be a clause in your ticket that says if a player hits you because you did something, they're not liable and you can't press charges.
Yep.
Like, it should go that far. The fans need to be regulated. Like, this is ridiculous. And it seems it's mostly on the East Coast. Like, all the incidents that just happened this week, Philly, New York, Boston, D.C., then you had Utah. But for the majority, it's all the Northeast Coast. What the hell is wrong with you people?
They different
Do
out
y'all
there,
want to
bro.
lose your teams, or if they move your teams out of your cities to places where the fans don't act like that, you'd be like, this is the mecca of basketball, and we deserve to have... No, you don't deserve to have anything because you idiots.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, man, Southern hospitality is definitely an original thing. And when you go up north, like, it's just... I'm not going to sit here and slander people from up north, but everybody can come to a simple agreement that people from up north are definitely head, shoulders, knees, and toes different from people down south. And that's just how it is, man.
The Knicks came to Atlanta, lost 2 games. Nobody got spit on.
See, that's
No
fighting for me,
popcorn,
dude. I'm swinging.
No water.
If you spit on me, I'm swinging on you. Like, dead serious. If I don't care who you are, if you spit on me, we're fighting immediately.
Absolutely, man. I mean, this is beyond ridiculous. Like, they need to go back to COVID protocols and just not let the fans in the stadium. Like, did you enjoy that? Watching people on Microsoft Teams on big monitors
Like in
out there celebrating, and
like-
you got to be a celebrity to get on the screen?
Like in a WWE.
Yeah, it's like that's what you're asking for.
Right.
Keep being stupid, and this is what's going to happen. You're not going to be allowed in the stadiums anymore, and it's going to be bad for the entire league because of the fans.
Yep.
Not because the players are boycotting or the players are doing ignorant stuff. It's the fans. Like, I can't even fathom what would go through your head to make you go in the stadium and think they're like, oh, I can't stand this guy. I mean, I've been on here many times and told you I'm not a fan of LeBron, and I definitely don't like Chris Paul. What I would never do is go courtside and be like, oh, he's in arm's reach? Like, I'm about to slap him.
Right.
I'm going to trip him.
Right.
Like, what? Like,
Try
no.
to talk some distinct smack because I just think I can because I'm a fan. No.
You want your team to beat
Does
him.
not work that way.
That's what it's supposed to be about.
Exactly.
You like, I don't like this guy. I mean, like, I want my team to beat him. It's not, oh, I want to see if I can hurt him.
Right.
Like, are you serious? These folks are like they're out of pocket on so many levels.
I highly agree.
Yeah, man. Like we weren't even supposed to get this charged up. We almost missed time for a whole topic. We'd have made it all the way to the top of the hour. So we're gonna take another short break. Mike Beasley gonna give us these good ads, pay these bills right here at the top of the hour. Make sure y'all keep it locked, because when we come back, we got a lot for you. We still got a little bit of Julio to talk about in the NFL. We're going to cover the NFC East. We got to talk about the Money Mayweather fight and a little bit about Mr. Glass himself, Anthony Davis. So keep it locked.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we greatly appreciate you tuning in tonight. You're watching Petty Sportz, brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios. Go over to Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. Type in Petty Sportz with a Z. Like, follow, subscribe, listen. And do feel free to share the content and page with others so they can tune in as well. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. I see it's getting pretty busy over there. Everybody got something to say about these fans getting out of pocket. Call in. Talk about it. 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. And go to kingsbroadcasting.com. Spend some money. Hit that donate button at the bottom of the page. And feel free to donate any amount. Nothing's too big. Nothing's too small. And every Wednesday right here, 8 o'clock. Tune in and watch Famous Facts, Fees, and Adam Lewis do their thing, all right? ATL, ho. Back to the regularly scheduled program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Petty Sportz, the podcast brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, Famous Fees, your host. They call me Facts. Sitting here with my boy, Adam. Holla at him.
Man, you already know we got a lot of drama in this second hour here. We got some speculation with some players. Got some little bit of breakdown coming at the end. We don't want to peep it just yet, but we got a great second hour on deck. And the first topic coming for us is definitely going to kick us off right. So I'm ready for it. Don't forget to call into the show, please. Hit us up in the chat room. Anything. Comment on YouTube. Subscribe. All social media platforms. Any podcast platforms. If you can't find us, it's because you're not looking, because we're everywhere. Fees, let's hit the second hour, man.
Absolutely, man. Second hour. Got another dope segment for you. We're going to chop it up about Julio Jones. This segment is called Band-Aid or Bleeding. So we're going to let you know, does the addition of Julio Jones to these particular NFL teams serve as a Band-Aid for that prospective team, or will they continue the bleeding regardless? So without further ado, we're going to stop at the top of the list. The Green Bay Packers. Is Julio a Band-Aid, or do they keep bleeding?
Oddly enough, I'm going to say a Band-Aid because I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is truly ready to fold on that contract. Is he actually ready to give up $35 to $40 million? That's a lot of money. He's not going to make that with jeopardy. And we also don't know, like I just said, we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is truly ready to withstand this situation. The whole city of Green Bay is out on him. They're done with Aaron Rodgers. They've went through this with Brett Favre. Didn't really go through it with Bart Starr, but they've had, lucky transitions now. But now they're getting a guy where it's like, okay, he's not being like Favre and really holding them hostage, but extremely petty, passive-aggressive, and the guy's got help. That's the thing that's crazy to me, is he's got the talent to get there. Back-to-back NFC Championship years with your brand-new head coach. The reason I say it's a Band-Aid is because, is this what it takes to win Rodgers back? Is this what it takes potentially to say, hey, I know you think we've messed up. I've got you a Devontae Adams that his first 4 or 5 years in the NFL, if turf toe wasn't a thing, this guy's averaging 11, 12 touchdowns a year. Like, Devontae Adams is extremely physical, and I've said it. He's really like a Julio 2.0. Extremely physical, a better route runner, great breakaway speed. I mean, we're talking about a lot of similarities with Julio Jones here. So it's going to be a Band-Aid for me, because is that what it would take to keep Aaron Rodgers? I think so. We haven't seen really the pedal to the metal yet, where the rubber really has to meet the road. If that comes down to it, that could be a deciding factor for them.
Okay, I mean, as far as it relates to keeping, I was about to call him Aaron Jones. I kept wanting to call him Aaron Jones.
That's the other one.
I mean, keeping Aaron Rodgers, then yes, that would be a Band-Aid. But as far as the Green Bay Packers are concerned, I think that the bleeding is on and popping.
Yeah.
They're still bleeding.
Yeah.
The Packers need offensive linemen. They need another running back. They need help on defense. They did not have problems scoring. They've been 13-3 in consecutive years, made it to the NFC Championship in consecutive years. The offense was not the problem. They can't stop anybody. So Julio Jones makes them more attractive on paper, but how much more attractive could they actually be?
Right.
At 13-3, back-to-back NFC Championships, they don't need him. They're just going to continue bleeding. Julio Jones is not the answer. So they're definitely still bleeding.
Gushing.
It's ugly. So, man, next on the docket, the team that's on my hat, y'all know who I rock with all day, every day, the New England Patriots. Are they getting the Band-Aid with Julio Jones, or do they continue bleeding?
I think the bleeding stopped a while ago. I mean, Bill Belichick said, hey, I see what y'all did. Let me go spend this money real fast. Let me go sign these players. Let me show Brady that I'm still in this fight. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a Band-Aid, because wouldn't this just be the icing on the cake for Bill and Cam? The only question that I have about this is, could Cam Newton actually get the ball to Julio Jones? Because Julio Jones is not a 10, 15-yard guy. His average depth of target is like about 17 to 22 yards down the field, plays big, great route runner, amazing speed. Like, we know he's got the physicality, one of the best physical receivers we've ever seen. He's an all-timer. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer more than likely. There's no question about that with Julio Jones. You give him to the Patriots, I mean, that just puts him over the top. Kendrick Bourne, Aguilar, if I'm not mistaken, correct.
Nelson Aguilar.
Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Julio, oh my goodness. Under Bill Belichick, and he reportedly said that's where he wants to go. They're kind of looking like they could be the favorites to land him. So I'm definitely going to say a Band-Aid for those Patriots. Not that they were bleeding where they need it, but it would just be an icing on the cake for them.
Yeah, I mean, given all the offseason moves that already fulfilled every other need they had outside of having a true number one wide receiver.
Right.
He's the ultimate Band-Aid, basically the finishing piece to the puzzle.
Literally.
That they started putting together in the offseason to have a true number one guy. And even to the point of Cam being able to get the ball down the field. Cam was top 5 in the league last year in 20-plus yard balls thrown. Like, his deep ball accuracy actually wasn't bad. He didn't have anybody to throw the ball to.
Right.
I mean, people are really dumping on him for his performance last year. He had nothing. He's got all the weapons around him to bring in Julio. That would pretty much be the culminating piece of the puzzle that Bill Belichick has put together in this offseason. The team has effectively pulled an entire rebuild in one offseason.
Literally.
And Julio would basically finish it. So it's absolutely a Band-Aid.
Highly agree.
So we'll move to the other team that's listed high in the Julio sweepstakes.
Yup.
The Tennessee Titans. Is that a Band-Aid or will they continue bleeding?
I think they continue to bleed because I totally know about A.J. Brown, and we've obviously sat here and gawked over Julio many times, many years, many yards. We know the whole nine with Julio Jones. That defense, you did lose a tight end. And at the end of the day, like, is Ryan Tannehill going to keep this up? I'm not doubting that he's not going to be a good quarterback, but Julio Jones doesn't fix what I want to see truly fixed with this team. Like I said, the defense, it makes you wonder because at one point in the NFL not too long ago, they led the league in turnovers. They were a top 5 defense. They were a top 5 offense. Like, people were talking about these guys as Super Bowl contenders, but they hadn't played anybody yet. As soon as they ran into a stretch of 4, 5, 6 games where they were playing teams that were good, they were losing 4 and maybe 5 of those games. I mean, we saw that with the Titans. Like, I said it, and I was totally on an island saying this last year. I think when the Titans were like, it was early in the season. I want to say like before week 9, they might have been like 6-2, 7-2. And I was like, the Titans are pretenders. I was like, the Titans are not Super Bowl contenders to me at all. And we clearly saw that they were not that team. It's a lot deeper than the wide receiver position right here, considering that you lost the tight end as well. So I got to say they're still bleeding, even if they do get a crazy pickup in Julio Jones. And I know A.J. Brown's scouting on TikTok.
Oh, they're absolutely bleeding. I mean, I think it might have been one of those random Tuesday night games. They ended up playing against Buffalo, and they got exposed, and it was just disgusting.
Right.
I mean, with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, they already have a solid 1-2 punch. Ryan Tannehill has proven that he is a very accurate quarterback, very good on the play action with Derrick Henry playing as well as he's played. Last year, their defense gave up 27.4 points per game, 24th in the league in total points given up, 28th in the league in total yards. I mean, they were giving up almost 400 yards per game.
No pass rush.
Their defense is a major need. And last time I checked, Julio ain't tackling Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
Because in the first round of the playoffs last year in the wild card, Lamar ran for 136 yards and a touchdown and another 179 and a throw and a passing touchdown, and you lost 20-13 to Baltimore because your defense is trash.
Yep.
Julio's not stopping that. He'll make you very attractive. And just like I told y'all last week, as far as stylistically for Julio and what it means, Tennessee would be the best landing spot for him. For the Tennessee Titans as a team, he doesn't help. You still need defense. I mean, but two things can be true at the same time. You can be a great fit for their offense and still not fix any of the woes that the team has. So they're absolutely bleeding. Whether they get Julio or not, they need defense. Plenty of it.
Absolutely.
So, man, then we move to this next ridiculous team on the docket. The Seattle Seahawks, as apparently Russell Wilson has reportedly been talking to Julio about potentially coming to Seattle.
That's scary. I would just say that's really scary.
I mean, does Julio Jones serve as a Band-Aid for the Seahawks, or do they continue bleeding?
Honestly, I think it's kind of like a gray area, if we're being real, because that Seahawks defense turned around. You know, we saw when Carlos Dunlap came back. We saw when Jamal Adams flipped back around off the injury. And, I mean, believe it or not, the Seahawks went from one of the worst defenses in the NFL to the best defense in the NFL in terms of yards per game given up just for a couple weeks there. But they still stayed about, top 5, top 7 in the NFL because they were able to flip it around.
And what?
What are you talking about?
Top 5 or 7 in the NFL and what?
Overall, like yards given up, rushing yards, like they flipped the defense around. Yes, the passing defense was terrible, But the overall yards per game, they had flipped it to like first or second overall. They didn't keep it, but they still stayed up, like I said, like top 5, top 7 by the time that the year ended. You bring in Julio in a loaded NFC West. You've got Tyler Lockett. You've got DK Metcalf. And when you look for an edge in the potentially, best division in the NFL, when you think about it, like, yes, Russ has DK and Tyler Lockett, but for some crazy reason, people have wondered, okay, who's the necessary wide receiver one? You think about Kyler Murray having D-Hop as his wide receiver one. Then you look at the Rams, kind of a head scratcher. You look at the Niners, kind of a head scratcher. If you just want to extend that much more, because the Seattle fans are foaming at the mouth. Like, they want it. They want Russell to play a full 16, now 17 full games, take home that MVP, take us to our 3rd Super Bowl. Like, let's make this thing happen. And I think Julio Jones would just be a great... It's not really a Band-Aid because they're not bleeding, but it would be a positive addition, And I mean, like I said, the defense tried to clean it up. They could go for another defensive player, but I mean, I think Seattle is fairly set, oddly enough. But I mean, Julio Jones never hurts, So I guess I'll go with Band-Aid here.
Yeah, they're definitely bleeding. I mean, that defense was still bad. They finished the season 31st in passing yards allowed.
Awful.
So, I mean, regardless of any turnaround they had, the defense was absolutely a problem. They're relying entirely too much on Russ, and they actually do have good wide receivers.
Right.
The Seahawks need a running back. They need defense. They need more defense and a running game, and that's basically all of what it is for Seattle. And just for the errors and omission, that would be their 4th trip to the Super Bowl.
There we go.
They lost to the Steelers in 2005.
Boom.
You remember Sean Alexander year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, what a GOAT. Love Sean Alexander.
And I'm pretty sure Jamila in the comments is about to really just lose all of her pearls. Like, yeah, Pittsburgh beat them. And they're like, yeah, Pittsburgh beat them in 05. So, like, yeah, we missed the Seattle Super Bowl with that. So, man, next team on the docket, San Francisco 49ers. Band-Aid or still bleeding?
Definitely a Band-Aid here because you finally give Jimmy Garoppolo an actual wide receiver one. He lost Kendrick Bourne last year, who was kind of trying to teeter back and forth. But again, we saw health with his team. And realistically, I mean, when I think about Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl, you're like, yeah, there was a Deebo Samuel there. And you obviously had, other receivers out there. Of course, you had a George Kittle. But Deebo is young. George Kittle isn't going to be your wide receiver one. And if we're talking about actually giving him somebody, Deebo's still there. They've got a Brandon Ayuk who is a stud, and they have Mohamed Sanu. But I think overall, these are like B- to B receivers. It's not going to be, like I said, if Julio can rehab, come back great. I mean, he's, to me, without question, the best wide receiver in the NFL when he's healthy. We saw it for a better part of his career. People want to say he might be on the back nine. I get it. He potentially misses about 20% of the season. But when he's on the field, he demands bodies. So you give him to Jimmy Garoppolo. It's already a team that's going to be one of the top teams in the NFL. You look at the draft they had. We don't know about Trey Lance, but, and that's the part that makes me nervous, is Trey Lance, like I've said, was he really balling out because he was great, or was he just not playing around a lot of talent? I'm not sure, but either way, Trey Lance with Julio Jones or Jimmy G with Julio Jones, an actual wide receiver one presence on that team and in that locker room. So I'm going to say that's a Band-Aid for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I'm giving San Francisco a Band-Aid. I mean, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk along with Julio Jones.
Right.
He all of a sudden makes them so much better because he's demanding the double teams. The defense is focused on him. Now, these guys are open. Jimmy G is a prolific passer when he's healthy. And, I mean, Trey Lance is definitely being groomed to come in and take that over, which now will give them even more time to get open because he's an extremely mobile quarterback.
Yep.
But in addition to all of the guys that you named, with George Kittle and Mohamed Sanu, they've got Raheem Mostert coming back, starting their running back, and they drafted Trey Sermon.
Yep.
So, I mean, they have a nice 1-2 punch at running back to go along with a quarterback tandem that supports this. So, I mean, I think Julio Jones in San Francisco would really be a major move. Like that would take San Francisco to the point of we definitely have to pick them to win the NFC West, which is far and away the best division in football right now.
It's crazy. The fact that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams that we're talking about, damn near half of them are in the NFC West.
Yeah,
it's too loaded, man.
It's not even close how good that division is.
He's got like overwhelmingly a 55+% chance of landing in the NFC West.
Last year, the NFC West and the NFC South were really battling for that title of being the best divisions in football.
Right.
But after the current moves,
look at the NFC North
season,
too, with the uprising of the Browns. Browns and the Raiders.
AFC North.
Well, excuse me, yes, AFC, definitely not the NFC North. The AFC North, yeah, you got to look at the uprising there too. So it's definitely back and forth, no question.
Yeah, I would give them second right now.
Right.
But I've still got to give it to the NFC West.
Right.
And we're going to keep it with the NFC West with the LA Rams.
Yeah, man.
With the addition of Julio Jones, be a Band-Aid or are they still bleeding?
Definitely a Band-Aid. I mean, you look at Matthew Stafford coming in. A lot of people are saying, he's going to have a lot of national games. This is going to really be the chance where you give him to a Sean McVay, get him out of the bad that was with the Lions, get him out of that bad coaching, just that terrible black hole really of coaching with Detroit. Bring him in with a Sean McVay, who's a top coach in this league. And then, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got Robert Woods. But then again, it's kind of the same thing with the Seahawks. Bringing in a Julio Jones. Obviously, he could demand a lot of attention. I mean, you can either open up Kupp, open up Woods, whatever might be the running back situation, opens up the box even more. This one's pretty short and simple. I'm definitely going to say a Band-Aid because, if you give Stafford immediately a beast like Julio, he's already comfortable. It's just, again, might be like even the Patriots, icing on the cake for him. So I'm definitely going to say a Band-Aid. This Rams team looks good because Matthew Stafford's got a lot around him. He's got the coaching. There's no excuse now if I had to go that far to say that.
I would say in this instance, he's just extremely unnecessary.
Right.
One player that you forgot here that actually will serve to do what Julio will do, they signed Deshaun Jackson.
Yes, they did. I did forget to mention him.
He's an over-the-top guy that's going to demand people because of his speed, even if they don't throw him the ball.
Right.
D-Jack running deep, you've got to pay him some attention, and it's going to take more than one guy to cover him. So, with D-Jack there, he's absolutely unnecessary. They don't need Julio.
Right.
They got Cam Akers. They might could use they could stand to bring in another running back, but at this time, outside of the fact that the Rams don't have any money, they can't sign him.
Yeah.
I don't care what they want to do. They'd have to have half the team restructure their contracts. They don't have any first-round draft picks for like the next 30 years because they traded them all away. They don't have any cap space. They can't bring in Julio, so they're stuck. I can't even say bleeding because they have a really good team, so
right.
They're not bleeding. But they don't need him, and it's not a good fit. It's unnecessary on so many levels.
Here we go, bro. Butterfly stitch. There we go. Got a butterfly stitch for it. I think that's fair enough.
Use a little filter on an app or something.
Right.
And just put some on there. Fake ones.
There we go. Just get rub some dirt on it. We'll be all right.
So, man, last team on the docket, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Trey's got to go, baby.
That's his baby right there.
Yes.
He loves the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I already know what his answer is going to be. Explain your Band-Aid.
Man, so, you look, it would be an immaculate deep threat for Justin Herbert next to Keenan Allen. You've got a Mike Williams out there. Austin Eckler's looking to come back healthy with an extremely upgraded offensive line. Justin Herbert can obviously make any throw in the NFL as of right now. He can be mobile. He's already seen the field well, and I know it's only his rookie year, but over 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Like, again, not necessarily. Well, no, I'll take it back because Keenan Allen, you're kind of curious about him. You don't know if he's still going to be that elite producer. You know he can be, but you've had some questions about him. And Mike Williams is a very solid two. Maybe, one of the best, most physical number 2 receivers in the NFL. You bring in a Julio Jones again, open that box for Eckler. You've got that upgraded line, and it's just going to make Herbert that much more comfortable. And like I said, immediate deep threat. Mike Williams can maybe be a deep threat, but you look at Julio, he would serve so many positives for that Chargers team, and it would just obviously elevate them even more. So you already know, man, definitely a Band-Aid for me.
Oh, I already knew where you were going, but you'll be surprised. I'm actually going to give him a Band-Aid, too. With Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they got Jared Cook out there, tight end.
There you go. I keep
Eckler.
forgetting about him.
They've got a pretty stout list of skill players on offense. Adding Julio to the mix obviously just opens all of them up. Justin Herbert was promising last year. It didn't equate to all the wins, but at 7-9, bringing in Julio, another year under the system, Justin Herbert gets his second year to really get comfortable with the flow of things. Think the Chargers could turn a corner. That still may not equal playoffs, but he's absolutely a Band-Aid as far as the LA Chargers are concerned. So I can actually rock with that, and I'm pretty sure you're surprised that I gave him a Band-Aid because I'm not high on Justin Herbert.
Slipper for the Suns and a Band-Aid for my Chargers. Woo! We in for it tonight, like you said. Antetokounmpo, that's 3 for 3. There we go.
Even the sun shines on the dog ass some days. I'm nice every now and then. Not often. It's still petty all day. So, man, this coming Sunday night is finally here. We get Floyd Money Mayweather and Logan Paul in the most ridiculous exhibition match that's ever been been locked in, signed, whatever you want to call it.
Why is this happening?
We've now found out officially who Chad Ochocinco is fighting, which it'll be Brian Maxwell. So now, sticking with the main event, is there any chance that we see Logan Paul do the unthinkable and actually beat Floyd Mayweather?
Absolutely not, man. I mean, like I said, I've come down to the conclusion that Floyd done spent some stupid money somewhere. He had a stock crash. Maybe he poured it all into crypto, and now he's really like regretting it. Maybe it's the $20+ million Bugatti that he still hasn't sold. I don't know what it is. We know there's a lot of money in celebrity boxing, and he even came out and said on a podcast, "Oh, Logan Paul 0-1 because he fought a YouTuber. Oh, that's easy. I'll take that all day. 50 million, 100 million, no problem." So no, there's not any chance. I mean, maybe he catches a lick. We've seen Floyd out here, and here's what's funny. We know Floyd loves attention. I mean, the guy will go live for taking a jog around his neighborhood or whatever. He did it today. With him, I guess, growing the hair out, the beard's getting a little more, people are saying, "Oh my God, this guy literally looks like the old guy at the 7-Eleven around the corner from my house." And people are saying he might look old with the training. He's just staging it. That's all it is. He's just staging it so he can get some silly writer or whatever it is, podcaster to sound off on and say, "Oh, there's a chance it's going to happen because Floyd looks old." No, there's not any chance. This is Floyd's fight. He won't knock him out in first round because that's not Floyd. I don't think that's ever been Floyd, if I'm not mistaken, but I could definitely see an all-out embarrassment from Floyd Mayweather to Logan Paul. There's no question about that. I mean, Logan Paul's fought one time. It was KSI. They had headgear on. It looked ugly. Like, come on, guys. This is Floyd's fight all day. I mean, yeah, man, definitely Floyd's fight. There's no way possible that Logan's getting this one off.
Yeah, man, they're fighting 8 3-minute rounds. Knockouts are legal in this exhibition.
But
they're wearing 12-ounce gloves, no headgear, no judges.
12-ounce gloves. You gotta be real for that.
No judges, and no official winner will be read at the end of the fight.
Huh. So it's just if you hit the mat, okay, we'll call it, go home.
Yeah, I mean, you can get knocked out, but it still won't be an official winner.
We won't embarrass you, I guess, by declaring the winner and the loser on this whatever.
That
dude.
just means whoever's
bro.
playing Michael Buffer won't announce the winner. But what we also know is that Snoop is going to declare the winner.
There we go.
Snoop going to be out there in rare form. We've seen him multiple times now. We know what kind of heat Snoop's going to bring. I'm more excited about listening to Snoop commentate the fight than the actual fight.
Right.
It's going to be better than the fight.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, as far as the fight's concerned, I mean, there's absolutely no way Floyd Mayweather loses the fight. I think he might play with him for about 5 rounds.
That's what I'm saying.
He
For
wants to entertain
purposes.
people. He played with Conor McGregor for 10 rounds.
Right.
He could have knocked him out early.
Yeah.
And even to your point, he's saying that never been Floyd. Like when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, that actually was him.
Yeah.
He had 27 knockouts in his 50 wins.
Right.
Almost all, I would venture to say at least 24 of those 50 came in the first half of his career.
Yeah.
That was before he broke his hands and they got brittle.
Right.
So then he was really actually just giving people work.
Right.
Once his hands got brittle, he started really getting tactical, going for defense and just hitting people on points. Like, I don't have to do that to win the fight.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to be ugly. And he'll play with them and then he'll drop them. I don't see any way that Logan Paul even makes it a distance. And I can't wait to come back in here and talk about what Snoop says. I don't know what song he going to sing. But it's going to be even worse than what he did when Nate Robinson got dropped.
It's going to be embarrassing as hell, dude. Like, it's going to be so embarrassing, man.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I'll just say it. I guess the Paul's got a great promoter, great team. They're obviously huge moguls on social media, like, all-time YouTubers, all over TikTok, Vine, Instagram, whatever it may be. Like, we know that they love doing the social media. They got a great team behind them for lining this up. I mean, I don't know, man. Next topic, bro.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, on the undercard, we've got Chad Ochocinco, Brian Maxwell. Unfortunately, it's not Brandon Marshall, which I would much rather saw him fight him. Don't know what happened with the negotiations for that, but Brian Maxwell stepped in. What Maxwell said in an interview was that Masvidal actually had a lot to do with him actually getting on that card. But regardless, now we've got Maxwell. Nobody knows who this guy is. He's a bare knuckle fighter.
Literally.
which sounds like, oh, he's a grappler. Like, he fights without gloves. Like, this is going to be nasty.
Get in my guard.
He got knocked out in the first round of his last 3 fights.
Exactly.
He has extremely limited experience and a glass jaw.
Yep.
Just because he's a professional MMA fighter and did the bare knuckle fights does not mean that the inexperience of Chad Ochocinco is going to play against him in this fight.
Yep.
So, I mean, who are you taking in this? Like, what do you expect to see out of Ocho?
Honestly, man, this is really weird because, like you said, with Brian Maxwell, 2-2 all time as an MMA fighter. His 2 victories were by submission. He's not a striker. He's lost his last 3 fights, a couple of them there with the bare knuckle, and then even a boxing match, technically, I guess, back in February. So, but at the end of the day, you do have a 43-year-old Chad Ochocinco who we're really just judging off YouTube and, Instagram social media clips onto, if he can really be this athletic and step into the ring, which, I think he's got it. He's confident. I've seen some of his tape. He looks very put together. He doesn't look herky-jerky. He looks very uniform. Strikes are very on point. And, overall, the body looks great for him. I can't deny that, but he hasn't boxed. And with Maxwell really being just a grappler more than anything, they both have a disadvantage. We're talking about a 43-year-old versus a 2-2 guy in the MMA who has 2 submissions. So, I really don't know. I would venture to bet on Ochocinco, but at the same time, I want to say in terms of odds, Maxwell is a pretty heavy favorite just because he's fought before. Ochocinco hasn't done anything. And Maxwell hasn't technically boxed either, but he's got, more of a background with the martial arts and the Muay Thai and submissions and all that. So I'd venture to say Ochocinco, but I wouldn't confidently put money on either guy in this fight. No question about that.
Ochocinco is the better athlete. He's longer.
And absolutely.
The fact that Brian Maxwell has a glass jaw, I can see Ocho dropping him. I definitely like Ocho for the win. If the odds are heavily in favor of Brian Maxwell, that's where you want to put your money for this Sunday night's match. Matter of fact, I might check on that on my way out of here, see if I can get a couple of dollars off this fight. Because Brian Maxwell is going to hit the canvas, and it's going to be Chad Ocho out there talking crazy trash.
Oh, yeah.
He might put the golds on in the press conference. It's going to be ugly because Chad is here for it. He's one of those athletes that is all the way here for the media.
Oh, 100%.
If you got a mic, he's talking.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to drop Brian, and he's going to talk. And I can't wait. So, man, before we get into our last 2 topics, one more time, we got to let the man of the hour do his thing, pay the bills, take care of this thing for us. We got Anthony Davis. We got the NFC East. Keep it locked.
Yes, appreciate that. Famous Facts. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you tune in to Kings Broadcasting Studios presenting Petty Sportz tonight, every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. You can tune in to Adam Lewis, Famous Facts feeds, of course, always spitting facts, giving it to you like it should. That venom straight to the main vein type, So, appreciate you sharing the show. Everybody in the chat room that's showing up, we see you out there. You can call in 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. Go to kingsbroadcasting.com's Kings with a Z. Spend some money with your boys, Help us bring forth this great content like we do every week. I'm talking about? Go to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe and like those pages. Follow, listen, share. And we greatly appreciate it. Without no you, there is no us, all right? You know what I mean? So, like Adam said, if you don't see those guys or the show out there, you're not really looking because they're all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Even Boxcast. Go to Boxcast, type in Kings Broadcasting. You can get in over there too. You don't have an excuse for real. All right, ATL ho. You know what I'm saying? Back to the race schedule program.
Yes, sir.
Tell him, Mike.
Just like he said, ATL it's 72-58. The Hawks handling the Knicks. It looks like this series is about to be over tonight.
And you know what? I did want to give a shout out to my squad while we were on air. So shouts out to the Hawks taking it to the Knicks up there in New York. Knicks being stupid, grimy, and dirty, and the Hawks playing through it. Way to go.
Yeah. Got to credit to young talent being able to put up with all that. That's early adversity, if you think about it. No question, man. We're balling out tonight. Let's look at these stats real quick. Capella with 14 points, 11 boards already. Trae Young with a little light game. 18 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. 11 from Collins, 11 from DeAndre Hunter. Okay. Picking up a little slack for Bogey, Gallo, and Herter there. Okay.
Hey, when
I'm here
everybody
for it.
else shows up, he doesn't have to do it.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the formula right there. If your superstar doesn't have to go for 40 a night, then he can actually coast and get a break.
Right.
Now he can come out fresh in game one.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, not mad at that at all. But then we're going to stick this thing with NBA action. And we got to take it back to L.A., to the Lake Show, with Mr. Glass, a.k.a. Street Clothes, as Charles Barkley calls him, battling with multiple injuries.
That was messed up. They're not gonna win without street clothes. They just awkward say, yeah, Anthony Street Clothes Davis.
No.
I was like, damn, Charles Barkley. I was like, wow, okay.
You see the graphic he put up there, too. Oh, man. So with Anthony Davis just battling injury after injury, LeBron James is already aging, and there are reports that LeBron is already saying that he might want to ship AD out next season. So, I mean, is this the last run for the AD LeBron James Lakers if they don't get out of this first round?
No question, brother. Absolutely. You look at Anthony Davis, he's missed at least 10 games a season in 6 of the 9 seasons he's been in the NBA, missing 30-plus games this year. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, this is what Anthony Davis is. He's going to be fragile, and he's going to be inconsistent in the playoffs. And, like, here's another thing that, unfortunately, Laker fans really don't want to hear. And I hate to hold this against the Lakers, but this is what it is, and I've said it. Like, the ring last year for LeBron in the bubble, that didn't really help his legacy. Like, yes, he played, he stepped into his situation, and he was there, but you still got 4.5 months off. You still gave an aging LeBron, who was still playing at a high level, 4.5 months off. But the big part is Anthony Davis had a great bubble last year because he was off for 4.5 months. He got time to rehab his unhealthy body. We've seen it at the beginning of his career. You know, his body wasn't necessarily the greatest, and as he's went on, it hasn't really committed to him either. So we've seen this with Anthony Davis time and time again, and unfortunately, he isn't aging like fine wine, like a Tom Brady or potentially a Tiger Woods or a LeBron James is going to be. But also, you know, like I said earlier with LeBron James, 22 points in this series, his lowest ever. 7 rebounds in this series, his lowest ever. But the thing is, like I said, only 3 players on this roster are scoring in double figures. You got LeBron James at 22, who's played the whole series, had a little bit of a shaky game, you know, a little bit of a shaky series. AD at 22, who's only played half of the series, missed the last game, went out, you know, with about 19 minutes under his belt the game before that. Dennis Schroeder at 13, and then who else? This is why I was saying, truly, if the Suns could make something happen, the Lakers are on the ropes. They could send them home. And they're potentially going to here within the next couple of days. This series is on the line. And crazy enough, when I turned to it last night, I was like 75-45. I was like, damn, man. I was like, I thought this was going to be the game. Like, these are the games that LeBron James wins. This is why people speak of him so highly. Never lost a game 7, you know, never got bounced in the first round type of thing. We understand that. But the chips are stacked, man. I mean, Father Time's here. It's what it is. And the whole thing, you know, we're saying of sending Anthony Davis out, it's a fast league. LeBron he still wants to win more titles. He knows he's only got 4. He understands that they're kind of all discounted, unfortunately, which I don't really, you know, take to. I give him credit for them. But at the end of the day, he still wants more. He's still got some left in the tank. LeBron's not near really being done. Only had 70 days off, so it's definitely going to be tough for the Lakers. But it is the last run, I definitely do believe, for Los Angeles.
Oh, man, I agree, because they're definitely done in this first-round series. They're not making it out. This will be the first time that LeBron has ever lost a first-round playoff series.
Exactly.
And they'll place heavy blame on Anthony Davis for being the guy that he's been his entire career.
Yep.
The only reason that he was the guy that he was in the bubble is because of those 4.5 months off.
Exactly.
So he was actually healthy, and now he's returned to his normal form. This is what he did with the Pelicans every year throughout the rest of his career.
Exactly.
He's just returned back to form. LeBron doesn't have enough left in the tank to carry him and the rest of this raggedy team that's out there, which was supposed to be a super team. They just ended up looking as bad as they look. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, with him looking
they
to
just
ship
have
him
no
out,
offense.
With him looking to ship him out, there are a lot of free agents coming up on the market next year. Well, this year. You got Kawhi Leonard and CP3 on their player option.
Exactly.
So they could opt out and potentially come and play with him. I don't think Kawhi would, but CP3 absolutely would.
Exactly. CP3 and LeBron have a good relationship.
Yeah. You got DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Mike Conley. John Collins could potentially go. John Collins will be a really good pairing with LeBron because he likes to dish and he wants to run the point.
Young.
And John is young and athletic. he would fit well with him.
And needs more of his exposure, really. I'd hate to see that, but you have a very good point there.
You've got Spencer Dinwiddie on his player option.
Exactly.
He was one of the so-called superstars that was supposed to be with the Nets team, and he's been out due to injury, which may be the reason why they may not pair him.
Right.
But you've got a Kelly Oubre.
Yep.
He's in his last year of his contract. He'll be a free agent. Another guy that I think would also come in along with John Collins, Duncan Robinson. He's about to be a free agent. If he brought in Collins and Duncan Robinson, they will be very good complementary pieces. Neither one of them will cost very much.
Right.
Derrick Rose will be a free agent. I think he could ship out Anthony Davis and build a whole new super team in LA for next season without him. There are a lot of other guys that are free agents that are actual Lakers that could be gone. You got KCP could be on his way. Montrezl Harrell, whatever his name is, Harrell. He's going to be a free agent this year.
Yep.
Drummond's going to be a free agent. They'll have plenty of space to move players.
Yep.
And I think quite a few of these guys on this list of available free agents for the market next year will end up in LA, and AD will get shipped out.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it'll end up, because they're done. You saw the picture of AD up on the screen. He looked like he's on the operation table, just like the old school game where you got the little tweezers, and he's got an issue in every single crevice of his body that you got to try to get out. You can't pull him out without touching the edges. AD is done.
Homie couldn't even sidestep in pregame the other day, man. He does not look good. And here's the thing. Groins linger. They linger. You could just be simply walking and your groin injury can almost be healed. Just that one step can flare it right back up again. And we know, this isn't a thing where it takes 3, 4, 5 days, even really a week. Maybe a week if you've got some great rehab and training on your side. But from personal experience, it's been about a 2.5 week process to where I feel like, okay, I can finally take off this leg again. I can get this full stride in. Anthony Davis is a 7-footer who plays extremely to the basket. He's a slasher. He likes to create his own shot.
Yeah.
That's going to be important for him, and I don't see that recovering anytime soon. So that's why it spells the end for them.
Oh, no. What we're going to see in the offseason is a lot of LeBron James ramping up his courtship process of Steph Curry. He already was buddy-buddy with him in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
He's talking about, he definitely is the MVP of the league this year.
We still haven't found that out, have we?
He's not going to be a free agent now. They don't tell us who the MVP is until, the conference finals.
Right.
Then we really have an issue with it, because whoever wins it usually isn't even still playing.
Thank you.
Just announce it when the season is over so we can not have so much extra to say about it.
Right.
It's a regular season award. Give it after the regular season is over.
Absolutely.
Do us that favor, NBA.
Please.
Do us that favor. Do something about the fans. You got some homework to do.
Yeah.
Fix it.
You wonder why ratings are down. Yes, the NFL is the end all be all. You can't compete with them, but you're not doing anything to help your case. You know what I'm saying? And I got a lot of respect for Adam Silver. Let's not get that twisted. Huge respect for him. But I will say the NFL doesn't have the greatest rep with Roger Goodell. And I've said it before. It's terrible that we patronize the NFL, but we love what they do. The NBA, or excuse me, not the NBA, Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred, we had a little episode here talking about them calling off the All-Star game. Mm-hmm. He's been under a lot of speculation, and there's been, the whole thing of, did he treat the Astros right? Did he do this? Did he do that? With some certain player suspensions. He has not been a good commissioner. Please, Adam Silver, you are the only one left, really, of the big three that's trying to still run a fairly reputable league. It's a huge players association. It's definitely more of a star presence in the NBA than it is in the NFL. Got a lot of respect for you. You fill David Stern's shoes extremely well. Let's keep it on the straight and narrow, please, and make something happen to where we can just get an uplift in the NBA, honestly.
Absolutely, man. They got to do something about it. The product just isn't like the NFL, but some moves need to be made. But speaking of the NFL, for the bottom half of the show,
we
got the NFC East to cover. All you Cowboys fans, you Giants fans, folks of the Washington football team,
Cowboys,
and you Philly boys. And I would just like to take 1 second to point out that 3 of the 4 teams that we named out have NBA teams in their cities whose fans are doing ignorant stuff. So I need for y'all to cut it out. When the NFL comes back, don't throw anything on the field. None of it. Yeah. Philly, Washington, and New York, all 3 of you,
Don't keep that same energy.
I need y'all to simmer down.
Yep.
All three of your teams suck, so cut it out. Cut it all the way out.
Yep.
Y'all were the worst division in the history of the league last year. So when y'all come out to those football games, I'm going to need you to have a seat, order your beer, cheer if your team actually happens to score. Don't throw anything. If you touch an NFL player, it ain't going to be like NBA.
We saw the Aaron Donald incident, bro.
Yeah, don't
leave it
do
at
it.
that.
I mean, that being said, man, this is the first week of our NFL division prediction segment. So we're going to go 8 straight weeks on this. 1 week, 1 division. It's 8 of them. We got a lot of football to talk for a long time. So, man, just like I told you, that was historically one of the worst divisions in the history of the NFL last season. And they'll all be looking to put some respect back on their names. So we're going to do a segment here called Expectation versus Reality. First team on the docket, the Dallas Cowboys, 6-10 last season, missed the playoffs, no quarterback. 2021 expectations for the Cowboys. What you got?
I think this team is really looking forward to the defense improving vastly. You know, you see it up there on the graphic. The first 6 picks of this draft were spent on defense, and Micah Parsons being a big one, you know, really a little bit bigger and a little bit faster Devin White. Like, we know what he brings to the table. And oddly enough, I think as a rookie, major bold prediction here, I think as a rookie, he will be the best defensive player on the field for the Dallas Cowboys. Really considering who they have out there, 20 linebackers in the room seems like. We know they've got some players, but I mean, like I said, first 6 picks of the draft spent on defense. So they're going to expect that defense to improve vastly. They're going to expect Ezekiel Elliott to bounce back to that, 1,300, 1,400 yard rusher, even slightly under 1,000 when it hasn't been all there for him. Like, we understand the true beast that Ezekiel Elliott is. And then they also want Dak Prescott to come back and win a lot of games. They want him to take them to that 10, 11, 12 win season, extra game in, more touchdowns, more yards for Dak. Like, I know Dak is a good quarterback, but he still is a stat stuffer. Put him in a great situation. Like, I know it's absolutely crazy what happened, but if you put Dak with like the Vikings or the Colts, dude, that's a Super Bowl contender. Are you kidding me? Look at the coaching that's in Dallas. It's just not there. Like, don't come at me with this Mike McCarthy. I don't want to hear about Dan Quinn because it's been nothing since 2017. I know he's just stepping back into the defensive role, but I'm not putting my trust there. Now, reality versus this team is I feel like the defense will barely improve on all, being completely realistic here, largely due to the coaching. And like I said, I don't want to hear about Dan Quinn. I don't want to hear about Mike McCarthy. I'm not really high on this Cowboys coaching. I mean, we've looked at it with the Chargers. We've looked at it with the Lions. We looked at it with the Falcons. We've looked at it with the Browns. You can have so much talent. If you don't have the coaching specifically, did a whole episode on this, specifically in the NFL, you're not going to be able to come through. And then you look at the fact that, like I said, Micah Parsons will probably be the best defensive player on the field for the Cowboys. Zeke should be able to bounce back. I am confident in that. But they didn't go really crazy on offensive. I think they had 2 offensive line picks, so they weren't really, eye-raising. Oh, they might be a big producer for us up front. So I think they'll go about 8-9 this year, realistically. They could win the division. Washington's going to be trying to scrape up with them. But, I mean, then again, you look at the Giants. We really don't know. So I got the Cowboys going 8-9 for this year.
8-9. That's
too
tough.
friendly, isn't it?
No, actually, it's not. I mean, the 2021 expectations for the Dallas Cowboys, I think, are a 12-5 season, first place in the division, and a deep playoff run for their expectations. I mean, they have every right to have those expectations because Dak is coming back. You've got a very deep wide receiver core with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. I mean, you've got Zeke, who looks to be rejuvenated from all the videos of him that I've seen. So, I mean, they have every reason to feel like in such a weak division, they should be able to come out of there 12-5. They did draft well on the defensive side of the ball. The reality, they were 28th in scoring defense last year, and they're relying on rookies to fix it. That doesn't happen overnight, and Dan Quinn has not proven to really be a defensive guy outside of being with Pete Carroll. It was Pete Carroll, and it was not Dan Quinn. He's been exposed, and he's going to continue to be exposed. But looking at the Cowboys' schedule for 2021, they got the NFC South. I'm giving them 2-2 against that division. The AFC West, I'm also giving them 2-2 against that division. their other 3 games, which is 3 now instead of 2 because of the extra game added, against Minnesota, Arizona, and New England.
Ooh.
I'm giving them 1 and 2 in those 3 games.
That's a little gauntlet right there.
Yeah, like those are the 3 extra games they've got. The Vikings, the Cardinals, and the Patriots.
Damn.
And then they got the division. I think they'll go 4 and 2 in the division, sweeping Philly, splitting with Washington, and splitting with the Giants.
Yeah.
That'll take them to 9 and 8. I think that'll give them first place in the NFC East because the division still isn't going to be that good. 9 and 8, 1 game over 500. That'll be enough to win it.
Yeah.
So, man, moving on to last year's division winner, the Washington football team. Last year they were 7 and 9 and they won the division, lost to Tampa Bay in the wild card in a tight game. Where do you see them for the 2021 expectations?
Absolutely. So they're going to be expecting this defense to still be top 5. You know, second year for Chase Young coming in, great pass rusher. I want to say after, I don't remember specifically, but like after week 12, week 14, he was the second highest rated rusher in the NFL as a rookie behind Khalil Mack. So Chase Young is obviously going to improve this year. You look at Diami Brown as well. That was a steal out of UNC, pairing him up with Scary Terry, you know, him being out there. They want him to progress as well. And another thing is I feel like, unfortunately, with these Washington fans, they know Taylor Heineke's not it. They're going to be looking for Ryan Fitzpatrick to potentially lead this team to at least a decent playoff run because of that defense. I don't see that happening, though. So that is going to be my expectations. And for this team, it is going to be tough because you saw a good uptick in them not last year, but they're still falling short in some categories to where I'm not confident in them taking that leap necessarily. They could win the division, but only because it's, only because it is so bad, So that is going to be my expectations rather for the Washington football team.
All right, so what do you have them as their reality? What's their record going to be?
The reality, honestly, I think this is about a 6-11 football team at the end of the day. I think they're going to get the defense right for sure. I still think they'll be top 5, no question about that. And potentially the wide receivers, but the fact that they didn't go really hard on the offensive line, when you look at a guy like Taylor Heineke who can kind of move, but you still want some offensive line presence for any quarterback in the NFL. It doesn't matter who it is. And the fact that Justin Herbert, I want to say, was either first or second last year in the NFL as a rookie, with a passer rating under pressure, we've seen what pressure can do to Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Wilson, Breeze, anybody, And the fact that they didn't address that offensive line for Ryan Fitzpatrick, for Taylor Heineke, I don't know if those wide receivers are going to be able to produce to that level. So I've got them about a 6-11 football team going into this year. But, we'll see what happens. They could win the division only because it is so bad, though.
Okay. Man, I feel like their 2021 expectation is that they finish 10-7 and they get first place in the division. So I think all 4 teams in the division's expectation is that they win the division because the division was so bad, and they all have a very legitimate claim to think that they can win the division,
right?
Because they were all within a game or 2 of winning it. So I think 10-7, first place, at least a decent playoff run, maybe into the second round, will be the expectation for them with Fitzpatrick as a starter. We all know Fitzmagic is good for about the first 6 games of the season. He might could pull them about 4 games out of that. He'll start to sputter out. He may start the first 8 or 9, and then they'll bring Heineke in. So, I mean, we're looking at the 2021 reality. It's not going to be it's not going to be great for them. They got the NFC South the same. I mean, they all have the NFC South and AFC West. I mean, in the NFC South, I think that the Washington football team, given the type of defense that they have and the fact that they play most of the teams in the NFC South within the first 7 weeks, I think they'll go 3-1 against the NFC South, only losing to Tampa. The AFC West, 1-3. Think they'll lose the majority of those games, so that'll have them at 500 between those 2 divisions. Their 3 other games are a gauntlet. I have them winning none of them. They've got Buffalo, Green Bay, and Seattle.
God.
They're not winning any of those games. I've got them going 3-3 in division, splitting with all 3.
Yep.
So that's where I have them 7-10. And I think 7-10 will give them 3rd place in the division. You'll see where I place the 2nd place after that. So moving along, before we run out of our good time, because we all the way to the bottom end of the show, the New York Football Giants, 6-10 last season, 3rd place in the division, but via tiebreaker under the Dallas Cowboys. They missed the playoffs last season. What are your 2021 expectations and the reality for the New York Giants?
They're definitely going to expect Saquon Barkley to come back. You know, they've been missing him. We saw last year only 19 carries for 34 yards. Wasn't an effective season whatsoever going out with the injury. And another thing that really started to irk me is people were actually talking about Saquon Barkley being a bust. I said, guys, yes. I said, guys, seriously, this is a guy who still ran for, I know it was only 1,003 yards, but he was still a 1,000-yard rusher being hampered. You had Stephen A. Smith out there saying, oh, is Saquon Barkley potentially pissing away his best years because he's playing hampered for the Giants? Maybe so. Maybe that is a possibility, but he's still got the heart. He's still got the drive to go out there and play at a 70, 80% because he's still hostile at that percentage. Like you look at Julio Jones, even at 70, 80%, he still demands bodies. He still demands attention when he's on the field. Then you're going to want to look also at Daniel Jones coming back and not even coming back, but, returning this season and being a better quarterback, having the weapons that he's got, having a Kyle Rudolph, having a John Ross. And some people wanting to roast me saying, oh, you act like Rudolph and Ross are major weapons. I'm not saying they're going to extremely produce, but there's still someone that can make a play for you if they needed to. They've got the speed. They've got the reliability. Then you obviously look at Kadarius Toney coming in. You've got Kenny Golladay as well. You've still got Evan Ingram. So, they've got a lot of pieces in the system to where they could accelerate. And then when you come back actually to the reality, I don't see a reason why Saquon can't come back really. He's going to be surging because he's been dealing with these, little injury-riddled seasons, the last couple years. And there's no excuse now for Daniel Jones either. Like I've been saying, he's got weapons. I mean, if we want to go even further, we're looking at potentially Dante Pettis and Sterling Shepard. Yeah, these aren't extreme guys that are going to change a game per se, but you still have to respect them because they can still play and they can still potentially make plays for you. At the end of the day, I see this being about a 5-12 football team, though. I have them splitting with the NFC East. I actually have every team in the NFC East splitting just because this is the one division where I feel like everybody equally has their number, kind of like the NFC West. Like Sean McVay kind of knows Pete Carroll, but everybody knows Cliff Kingsbury, but we're still kind of wondering about, you see how it goes here. So I do expect about a 5-12 realistically from these New York Giants out of 2021.
That's ugly right there, man. My 2021 expectation for the New York Giants, I think, is 11-6, first place in the division. And they expect to go to the bowl. When the Giants make the playoffs, they go to the Super Bowl. They don't make the playoffs often, but when they go, they make it all the way. With Barkley being back, adding Golladay and everyone else, I don't even have to go back through and run the tape because you just really covered all of that. That's what their expectation is. The reality for 2021, the New York Giants will go 1-3 against the NFC South because stylistically they do not match up against those teams. Against the AFC West, I think they actually will go 3-1 because on the flip side, outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, stylistically, they have everything that those teams lack. So I think they can beat 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC West. Their 3 other games, they got the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Bears. They lose all 3 of those games. So now, in division, I got them at 2-4. They're the team that Philly will sweep, and that's where Philly's getting their 2 division wins from. And then they'll split with Dallas and Washington, leaving them at 6-11, last place in the division. So, Ben, before we bring this thing into the rear, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles last year, 4-11-1.
Awful.
Last place in the division. The entire team was decimated by injury and opt-outs. What is your 2021 expectation for the Philadelphia Eagles and the 2021 reality?
I'm really banking on Jalen Hurts finally getting his damn respect. I understand he was drafted late. And people want to act like he wasn't a great quarterback at Alabama. And if it wasn't for a Joe Burrow, that this guy was really looking to be like the Heisman contender. Like, let's be real about what he did at Oklahoma. Great dual threat. Yeah, he had a little bit of a turnover problem towards the middle and end of the season. But overall, this is a guy who ran into a buzzsaw, I want to say, with LSU in the first round of the playoffs and just absolutely got smacked off the map. But we understand what Jalen Hurts does bring to the table, and he should be the QB1 coming into this year. Then you look at Devontae Smith. You really hope he was worth the trade up in the draft, being drafted at number 10. And I hope he is as well because he is small, and I hope that he doesn't get pushed around. Now, that is his body style at the end of the day, and I love the podcast that he did with Shanna Sharp saying, this is me, take her to leave it. I obviously won the Heisman. I played for a great college team. So they obviously see something in me. And then at the end of the day, you want to hope that their defense gives them a fighting spot in this division. They spent 6 of their 9 draft picks on defense. Now let's go to the reality. Hurts should be able to get a full season under his belt. I have no question about that. He's got Devontae Smith. He's going to have a Miles Sanders potentially, a Jordan. Miles Sanders is still there, correct?
Yeah.
You're going to have a Jordan Hayward that just came back on a 1-year deal. So you see some similarities with this team from last year. You know, he still kind of remembering the Saints game when him and Miles Sanders went off. Like, that's something that can happen, even if it was a bad day per se for the Saints, or it might have been Sean Payton. Like, they've still shown themselves that they can do that in an NFL game. Then you also look at the fact that they were 17th in defensive yards per game, bottom third in the league for rush defense and points given up per game as well. Now you look at one draft pick, Jacoby Stevens, coming out of LSU. Obviously, when you have LSU guys come out, he was a 6th-round pick, but these guys still come into the NFL. They're really ready to play coming out of the SEC. And when you look at a team like the Eagles, who's just trying to get an edge, really in another terrible division, you hope that Devontae Smith and maybe Jacoby Stevens could provide a spark for you. Jalen Hurts as well. I don't know really where Jalen Hurts is going to fall. Oddly enough, I wouldn't be surprised if he was like a top 15, top 17 quarterback, because he really does show that he's got that capability. Okay. I kind of put him with the whole, Tua thing. Did he really get a shot? Getting pulled out, tanking towards the end of the year. We don't know about the head coaching situation right now, but Jalen Hurts has a lot of promise here. So I would say they're going to go 5-12 as well, because they still do have some holes, but they've got enough talent to where if they wanted to make a little bit of a run, they potentially could. But I'm nervous about that head coach, so I still got him sitting at 5-12 here.
Oh, yeah, so you're very, very low on Philly. I think for the 2021 expectations, just like everyone else, I think they expect to be 10-7, first place in the division. Hurts getting his first full season as a starter.
Yep.
He's bringing back Sanders in Boston, healthy. He's got Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor, healthy.
Yep.
I mean, healthy is a big thing for Philly right now. They have pieces on offense. None of these guys were healthy last season. So I think a full clip with these guys, I think they expect to win the division, go 10-7. The reality, I think against the NFC South, they'll go 2-2. I think against the AFC West, they'll also go 2-2. In their other 3 games, because they finished last in the division, they got some cupcakes. They get the Jets, the Lions, and the 49ers. 2-1. I think they definitely beat the Jets and the Lions. They're absolutely not beating San Francisco, but they'll beat the Jets and the Lions. And in division, I got them 2-4. Got them getting swept by the Cowboys, swept by the Washington football team, and they'll sweep the Giants. So all in all, I got them at 8-9. Second place in the division, not going to make the playoffs. So that as we break down the entire NFC East, where I have them falling, Dallas, first place in the division, 9-8. Mm-hmm. Philly, second place, 8-9. Washington, 7-10. And the New York Giants, 6-11. Dallas makes the playoff. They lose the wild card. NFC East is out of the picture. That's where I see the NFC East finishing next year.
Yep. I got Dallas, Washington, Giants, and then Philly. But you could easily have a mix-up really with all 4, because like I was saying last year, having, Washington really emerges that defense, and overall, they're still trying to search for their quarterback. And that's one thing that I hope the fans, I hope they don't eat the cheese here, man, because Ryan Fitzpatrick, like we know, he was playing well, bringing Tua in. And it was kind of curious because, Fitzpatrick, like I said, he was playing well, and then you brought Tua in, and then you're pulling Tua back out, putting Fitzpatrick back in. You can't be doing that in Washington. Like, you can't be pulling him and Taylor Heineke out. Like, we don't even know who this guy is. Before he played that playoff game, he was, like, taking college classes weeks before. Yeah. He was, like, an emergency quarterback, and they signed him. So, we'll see. But it's going to be a great NFL season, no doubt. Love doing the division breakdown, man. We're going to be coming all season with it. Every division. We'll hand out the Super Bowl predictions. We'll hand out the NFL awards. Coaches on a hot seat. Whatever you guys want. It's been a great show tonight, man. Let's go ahead and take it out.
Oh, absolutely, man. And any of y'all tuned in, chime in. Let us know which division y'all want to see us cover next. We're going to hit all 8 of them. We just did the NFC East. Let us know who you want to hear about. Eventually, we're going to get to you. We might do you next if you really got a high demand for it. But, man, as always, we appreciate y'all tuning in each and every Wednesday night. Petty Sportz, that's how we do it. Y'all know how you can find me. It's Famous Fees, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Cash App, all that. That's how you get to me. Hit me up. I'm always here. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all always. Adam, take us out.
Man, you already know. So I'm looking at the Hawks right now, 94-78. Looks like they're going to take this series home. A little under 4 minutes left. Been a great show tonight, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Love getting into the NFL content. Great tennis content, some boxing in there as well. We're going to be back next week with the NBA. Probably have some more predictions for you. Shake it up with the NFL, division breakdowns. No little segment there. No little segment for the NBA. Great show tonight, though. Appreciate y'all. Got to get some callers. Got to get y'all tuning in. Got to get y'all in the show. Got to get you subscribing. We out, man. We'll see y'all.
Yes, sir.